In TribalWars we often complain, and rightfully so, that not enough is done for our game and that we have no contact with the people actually developing it. Well, today I'm going to present you with a chance to change that. I'm going to tell you about a new game, Conquer Quest Online. It's currently in beta, and I am going to be talking with the developer of the game. And we're gonna try to convince you to give the game a try, basically. Hopefully, you find this interesting and you find the view of the developer interesting, and hopefully we'll see you in the Discord server of the game, which will of course leave in the description of the video. So I will get back to my sort of interview with Jay, the creator of this game. Enjoy.
Hey, first of all, thank you to Duck for giving me this chance to show the game. I'll jump right into it. So this game is sort of a TribalWars like game. The idea is you build up your fields. Eventually, you build all these buildings. Some of the buildings improve the amount of production from your fields. Some of the buildings let you train your troops. Like, for instance, this garrison here, I can go and train two types of troops, which I've researched. So, just for fun, I'll train 200 Legion initiates, and they'll start training. Some other features that I think are cool are, I think the map looks great. One of the things you'll see here are these roads. Roads are a player-driven idea. Kind of to talk about what they do is the end game revolves around this sort of game of capture the flag. What I mean by that is in a full server at 0-0, there is a fortress guarded by these scary cultists, and you're in that fortress is this cool artifact, and your alliance is responsible for taking that artifact to your alliance's temple. And I'm already realizing I'm getting way too far ahead of myself. So let's look at alliances first to kind of talk about what that means. So if we go to the high scores, we can see some of the best alliances on this server. And you can see that they all have an allegiance. So what's that mean? In Conquer Quest Online, there is a flat earth. So if you are a flat earther, you're going to love this game. Essentially, the world is held up on the corners by one of these four deities: Somnus, Vorath, Kinos, and Oris. So your job as an alliance is to capture the flag, which is called the nail, and bring it at the end of the game to your corner. So each deity lives at a certain corner of the map. Now, how do you do that? Is by carrying this flag through the to outposts that your alliance owns, and it can only travel along these roads. So let's follow this road all the way down, and you can see there's a parallel road from another village, and it leads to this outpost here. And in this outpost, I need to take a rest as I'm carrying this flag. My troops need to rest, and that's the time where other alliances can come and try to steal the flag from me. I believe it's 16 hours that you rest at this outpost before you can move on to the next one, and it has to move along roads. But the outposts give me benefits all game long. For instance, I can go to this shopping district, and you can see that I have a surplus of iron. I can take my I can say, like, I'm lacking crop here, so I can say I want some crop. I'm going to offer up some iron, so I'll offer up 10,000 iron, and I can instantly convert that into crop. I guess instant is not the right word because my merchants are going to move. The great thing here is that because they're connected by a road, my merchants are going to move a little bit faster. The idea is, over the course of a game, you take your flag from one outpost, rest, defend the flag, of course, from other alliances, move it down to the next outpost, connected by roads, rest again, move it all the way to the corner. The first alliance that takes the flag from wherever to their corner wins. Every other alliance loses. The reasoning behind this is only one alliance wins. Trying to making these massive alliances doesn't benefit you as a player because only one alliance wins. Only one alliance gets the credit. So that's kind of the basic loop of the game. You get a village, you build up troops, and you use those troops to attack other alliances, defend your alliance, and grow. Um, Now, I'm a Travian player. That's my background. I kind of got away from that game because it didn't really suit my lifestyle. So there's a lot of features in this game that allow grown-ups right to play. Grown-ups is maybe a little unfair, but people that don't have a ton of time on their hands anymore, people with families and jobs and things like that. So I can take my village here and I can queue up a wood field, and you can see it started immediately, but I can start queuing up more and more fields. So kind of once a day, I can go in and log in and check on my queue and make sure it's good. And you can see I've queued up 2 hours, 2.5 hours worth of work for my builder, and I have a 12-hour total number of queue. Now, if I wanted more, I could go to my main building and I could research a longer queue. So you can see that goes up to 24 hours. So the idea here is that we want people to be able to play, but we're in it for the long term a little bit. So I don't necessarily want people that are committed to like a 3 month server or whatever to sit there and manage the game and look at their phones for 6 hours a day, right? I think this is something you kind of check in on. You're in maintenance mode, and you do some like strategy wins over activity is kind of the basis behind the game. One other feature I want to show before we jump into this to kind of talk about how that works is this campaign planner. So this is a really cool feature I'm really proud of, and it came from the community as well. But the idea is, let's look at an old campaign we did. So we captured an outpost. So the NPCs also hold outposts, and we can go attack those. So we sent 25 Legion initiates, and we scheduled these ahead of time. So you can see that we sent it at these times. Essentially, they all landed within a few milliseconds of this time, server time, or actually that's local to me. So 2:30 a.m. But of course, I didn't set a 2:30 a.m. alarm to make this attack. Instead, I used the campaign planner, and I said, okay, I'm going to attack cultists. Oops. Sorry about that. Let's try that one more time. I'm going to attack cultists. Those are the NPC, sort of barbarians in TribalWars terms. I'm going to choose an outpost that they control. Let's say I want to capture this outpost, and I need troops. So I'm going to choose an alliance member with troops. Let's use me so I don't dox anybody. And I'm going to send 10 equities. This is my cavalry unit. And I'm going to send 10 Legion initiates. And then I'm going to set a timing. So I want this to land not at 9 o'clock p.m. I want this to land tomorrow or next week, right? At 3 o'clock a.m. And for the Europeans looking at this and angry about the time, it will convert to 24-hour clocks. But okay, so I'm going to schedule this wave to start at April 3rd, 2026 at 3 a.m. I'm going to make sure everything looks good, and I'm going to send orders. Then, as a player, I see, oh, look at this. I have a new notification. I have new attack orders. So I can accept this order, and my troops will launch on time, and they will arrive at the time that the alliance leader has chosen. So this feature is only available for alliance members with the role of tactician, but it's a way to like build up waves. If you've ever been frustrated by like having to download the Opera browser and have 10 tabs open to send waves, we're trying to solve those types of problems. If you've ever had to set an alarm to make sure your attack lands on time and get it down to the right second and hope that there's no server lag, we've solved those types of problems, right? You can accept an order on your lunch break, and while you're sleeping, your troops start their march. So these are the types of problems we're trying to solve that come with this game genre in new ways. Some other things just to talk about is, yeah, it's kind of a mobile-first design, so it ideally looks best on mobile, but desktop players shouldn't feel that it's a mobile game. And that's kind of it. We want to build a modern game for the modern gamer that works for their lifestyle, but also offers all the fun strategic thinking that comes from games like TribalWars and Travian. So that's the game. I hope you come to the Discord, offer your suggestions. The number one thing I can tell you is that the feedback from the community shapes the game more than my ideas or more than what I want. So that feedback is valued and often rewarded with features that come out of it. So thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to talking to Duck more about how the game works.
All right. Well, let's get into it then. I mean, I must say, from this, I've learned plenty of things that I was not even aware of before, and it does sound very, very interesting. And I mean, I do have my questions regarding some things. Like, for example, in TribalWars, of course, we have multiple villages. Here, I'm not sure that every village is like the same thing. You seem to have some sort of a base where most of the things happen. And how does that work around planning attacks? Because what I've seen you show me, right, is that you just click there and you opt into some operation by your tribe, but I didn't see any sort of like village selection, right? I don't know which village you are attacking from. So is there only like one big set of troops, or does each village that you have a different amount of troops, or do they serve a completely different purpose, right? Having other villages. How does that work?
Yeah. Is it okay to share again?
Of course, I mean you should be sharing. You can
Okay.
You can show everything you'd like.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so that's a great question. First of all, I want to make sure I go back and do it again because yes, first of all, there's two questions you asked there. In my opinion, villages do serve different purposes. I'm going to switch to a village I have that has a completely different makeup than this village, right? So if you look at this village here, there's 15 crop tiles. Most other villages I own have 6 crop tiles, right? This is a big difference between TribalWars and Conquer Quest, which is that troops need to eat. So your wheat or your crop production does have an impact in that you need to be able to feed your troops. So this village I got because my other villages had so many soldiers in them that they were consuming so many crops that this village I essentially use to move crop around, right? So my main village called HQ is where most of my troops live. Not all, but most of them. So I'm going to send him 10,000 crop because he actually has a negative amount of crop. His soldiers and his population consume more crop than his fields make. So that's actually something that does matter. And the composition of the fields do have an impact on gameplay in some sense. So if I switch over to this village, for instance, it has 6 crop tiles. So most people are going to find that, especially early game, they have a surplus of crop. That changes as your army size grows. Your second question, though, was about like the villages. So I do want to point out that in the campaign planner, when I go, I'm going to cancel this one and start a new one just to kind of show you. We won't go all the way through, but let's like kind of show how dynamic it is. Is I can add another target, so I don't have to just attack one at a time. But when I do assign troops, I'm like so here in this campaign I have 2 targets, and this one I'm going to say once again I'll use me, and you can see there's 2 villages. I showed you more than 2 villages. I only have troops trained at 2 villages. So this time, let's look at my second village here.
Oh, okay.
And you can see this village, most people probably don't know this, but this Principus is a more defensive-oriented troop type. But let's say at this one, I said I want him to send 25 Legion initiatives, and let's say from my other village, I want to send 25 Equitus, which are powerful attackers and they're horses and they're much faster. I can add those. And so when I Oh, I don't know if we have a bug here or not. Of course, as I go to show it, it seems to break. But and I assure you, oh, I know what happened. That's not a bug. I only assigned troops to to one village. Or I only sent troops to one of the targets. So that's what happened there. Um, so let's pretend I send 25 Equitus to this, and now I can move on because each target has a troop attack, has an assignment to it, and so I can set my timings and um, go through it again. But yeah, essentially, it's going to weigh like how like of course my horses are much faster than the cow or the infantry troops, so they're going to dispatch sooner. The infantry will dispatch sooner, but they will arrive at the time you set as a strategist. So it's really becomes less about who has the best mechanical skill and more about who made the best plan. Does that answer your question?
That does answer my question. That is really cool, man. That is really nice to see, and I mean I have that same perspective, right? Why would the winner be the one that spends the most time setting up alarms to send attacks, right? It makes no sense. So I really do like this, and I really do like your planner feature. I think it's amazing. I think that's really great, and I mean I really still wonder if you really do need to just go village by village, and do things individually in each village. Do you not have any sort of like list view of each village where you can like more easily manage all of your villages at once?
Yeah, so that's come up a lot. And right now the answer is no. I'm planning a tools feature, like something like this. So, like at a quick glance, these are your notifications and your reports and things like that. I think this is also just a um, quick view into your reports. I will have a tools icon here where you will be able to see that view, but it's just kind of still in the works. And just to be clear to everybody, like this game is very much under development. It's in alpha, and it's in a very early alpha, meaning most people here are just testing to make sure like the buttons do what you expect them to do. Not so much that it feels right to play, that the balance is there. There's going to be issues that we run into along the way. This is really truly a like, does the game engine support the things it needs to support? Can you develop a village and can you send attacks and they process correctly and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of features missing that are coming, and that view is definitely one of them. It's been talked about quite a bit, and I think it's a great idea. It's on the roadmap.
Well, and that's once again something that whoever is watching this video can tune along and have their say on all of these changes that are still uh, to be made.
Yes,
Yeah.
completely.
Well, I have some more other questions. I mean, a lot more other questions. Um, the first question that I had, I think you already answered it a little bit, but it was, what would you say is the main difference your game has versus Travian's, TribalWars, all of those things, and what would you say are the main similarities? This because it could be a worry for a lot of the people. How much of an issue it would be adapting to a different game, right? Because how different are all of these concepts, and how long do you think someone would take to get adapted to this different game, basically?
Yeah, totally. So my hope is it should take as little time as possible. The reality is that's a real struggle, and that familiarity is a major hurdle to overcome. And we'll put it like this: um, Alpha launched in a very incomplete state on February 14th. So a little over 6 weeks ago, or let's just call it 6 weeks ago. Since then, the game has completely transformed. When I started building this game, my idea was I'm a Travian player. I know Travian players, and I know TribalWars players are similar enough that they share sort of the same types of problems. Um, whatever it is with those games, if I can like build a version of that that solves those problems, brings it into the modern age, will people play it, right? And so my initial idea was more or less a one-to-one clone of the games I know. That has changed as people have jumped into the Discord and offered their suggestions and ideas, and it became very clear that they don't want a one-to-one clone. That is not what people want to play. They want something different. So I would say that there's a lot of TribalWars and Travian DNA in the game. Like if you are used to building villages and adding buildings and strategically thinking about what types of buildings to put and why, this will feel somewhat natural. There are things you need to learn, and there's a minimal tutorial, which you can probably speak to more about its effectiveness at introducing you to the game mechanics than I can. But to be very blunt, the new player experience is a blind spot for me because I come in understanding how everything works because, I built it. But not every player shares that. So one of the biggest points of friction that I'm trying to solve now, sort of my biggest priority, is how do we smooth that onboarding process and make sure everybody jumps in and understands how the game operates, what makes it different, and what feels familiar. I would say that in general, there seems to be there's actually some observations I want to share that are pretty interesting to me. The first is, while this is nearly, and especially the DNA is very closely related to Travian, TribalWars players have latched onto this game far harder than the Travian players have, for whatever reason. The second one to share is that lots of TribalWars players have latched onto the mechanics and have understood them. I'll go and look at these high scores, and in 6 weeks, this may not look impressive on a TribalWars server. I understand in TribalWars, you end up managing like hundreds, if not thousands of villages, if I've heard correctly. In my game, you'll manage closer to like 50, probably. So like these players on this screen, and a lot of them came from TribalWars, have put in a lot of time. Like, I'll put it this way, I put in what I feel is a lot of time, and I'm 12th. So at least 10 plus players have put in even more time than me, and there's a lot of players that came in the last, like, if we look, like, a lot of these guys, you can see, okay, they've been playing for a month. That's about how long the game's been running. But look at this, right? Look at this. Perfect. There's Duck That Quacks, our favorite duck. You're number 27. You've been playing for 9 days, and you've kind of latched onto the mechanics a little bit. At least you seem to understand, enough to jump up the high scores. Of course, population's not everything, but the point stands. Like, as you get into this, you can see a new wave of players that have come in, and a fair amount of them have seemed to figure out the mechanics well enough. But that's definitely a point of the game that needs to be stronger, is how to bring on new players, make sure they understand everything. I think you would probably agree, you probably don't understand how the game is meant to operate, or how to win the game, or how to be good at the game. You can kind of see, like, managing your village is fun, but actually getting into the game, there's not enough tutorial there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I think that the tutorial definitely it tells you where you're meant to go, right? In the sense that it tells you to unlock XYZ building, whatever. It doesn't really tell you what you're meant to do on them, or I mean, it does tell you, like, recruit a cavalry unit, recruit your first troop in the garrison, whatever. But I feel like there's a lot of things lacking in the sort of, like, telling people more about the mechanics of the thing itself. So, for example, there was a mission telling me to do a mission, right? Those things in the rally points that you do, you can show it if you want, but
Yeah.
those things, they are very similar to scavenging in a way in TribalWars. Substantially different though, because you are, like, sending your units away to help some outpost against an attack, or you are attacking an outpost, basically. From what I get, and that is the main way to loot inside of the game right now. And I feel like there is basically no explanation of that in the missions, for example. you are told to complete a mission. You aren't really told to repeatedly do missions because they will be good and they are the way for you to get resources. Basically, I
Yes.
I think that the game, the tutorial currently, it directs you to the correct place, but it doesn't tell you what to do long term. Basically,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's
that is also something that, I mean, since I've joined the server, I've pointed out a plethora of things regarding the tutorial and regarding the experience of starting. And well, I'm sure everyone that shows up into the game will also have some similar experience to mine, and they will have some other like pain points that they will find and will believe it has to be tweaked. And these are all things that should be talked about and improved upon, and that's the goal in the end.
yes, 100%. And even this is like there's a difference between like reading a text on Discord and even talking to you and going. I get a little bit more context into like the inefficiencies and the insufficiencies of the tutorial, where I kind of have a better insight into like what you'd expect. That especially starting out doing missions often, and hey, they respawn every time you do one, and you get a new set of missions and things like that is absolutely something that could be improved. So all these things, and I want to reiterate this, like um, my philosophy on feedback is that I want as much of it as I can get, and if I can reward it, and what I mean by that is if people see their feedback turning into new features or something new on the screen that wasn't there before, I hope that that will kind of incentivize them to provide more and more. And so my philosophy there is there are problems with the game and there are issues with kind of wrapping your head around all the mechanics. But if you bring those to me, I will turn those into features, or I will turn those into a better experience for everyone. So I hope that the pain that you've gone through in kind of figuring everything out makes it better for everyone that comes after you, and that's true for the players that came before you, even, right? Like if you had started on day one, I think there was no chance you'd want to do this video because the game was much worse 6 weeks ago than it is today.
Makes sense. Constant improvement, and
Yes,
community-driven constant improvement. Basically, it is the
100%. Yeah, I deploy changes sometimes 20 times a day, but a slow day is like 3 updates. I am constantly taking in feedback and synthesizing it and kind of interrogating what it really means, and then turning that into production features.
and that is really good to hear. I mean, that's just great. We can move on to another question. Although I think you already kind of touched it a little bit, but maybe not as deeply. I don't know. My question is, what do you plan to do differently versus what TribalWars does and what Travian does? Right? I have no clue about the reality of TribalWars, but
Yeah.
from my understanding, it's what this is mainly based on. Because, for example, that concept of not building one building and building more buildings of another specific building, like that thing is not something that I am familiar with at all, and maybe this is something that Travian has, but for
Oh.
TribalWars it already is like something very different because you have the standard build and that just doesn't change, that the build is always the same basically. But I'm mainly talking about just like development wise, I guess, for this
Yeah.
question, but whatever you would like.
Yeah. No. Um, there's philosophical differences that are super important. Like the thesis behind this game started with what if Travian wasn't pay to play, or what if or pay to win? What if putting more money into the game didn't increase your odds of winning? Um, and so that's the core thought around the game at the jump is just I want the person or the team with the best strategy to win. I don't want to um, I don't want to extract as much money from players as I can. And my thought here is that there's players who like these games. I know they're out there because I'm one of them. There are players who enjoy these types of games that simply can't keep up and can't compete because they can't pay. Um, and so that's like the driving factor, like the first differentiator. If I were to like market the number one feature here, it would be this game is free to win. I don't charge you to win. um, Beyond that, though, uh, there is a development philosophy around like. Let me put it this way. Like I've thought about like people have talked about even in Discord about monetization. People have asked me like, are you gonna have ads in the game? And a lot of those questions come with design philosophies that have to be considered that I wouldn't normally otherwise consider. What I mean by that is if you look at like a TV show versus a movie, TV shows have built-in ad breaks. They have to, by design, build the TV show, that 30 minutes of programming, around a certain number of ad breaks. And that changes the pace and the flow of the TV show, right? And that's the same for games, is when you have to throw in ad breaks into your game, it changes how you design things. And so that thought has to be in the back of your mind as you're designing features and as you're designing gameplay loops. That's not how I want to approach this game whatsoever. Like, there's no. I'll talk a little bit of trash on Travian, although like I love that game. And my goal here is not to like dump on other companies. They've done very well and they've made fun games. But in Travian, there's like this thought that like we're going to create build times that are so horrendous and unobtainable that the only way that someone would reasonably get to these levels of like a crop field that takes 6 weeks to build is to pay 2 gold to skip that build time. It's like a design consideration they have to make as they build these features out. And that's a fundamental difference here is what if we build times in ways that scale well, they feel rewarding, they become real strategic choices? Like, is there enough time left in the server for this build upgrade to make sense mathematically? It rewards game knowledge, it rewards strategic thinking, but it's not optimized in a way to make you think, what if I paid to skip this? Like, everyone's on the same level ground. So that's, from a trading perspective, that's like, to me, like the top differentiator. In play aside, just from a philosophical standpoint, how we design the game starts with what feels good and what's fun for the players, and not what creates friction that players play to skip. Or players pay to skip. That's a tough sentence to get out.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, right? I'm not someone who enjoys spending my entire wallet to go up in points or whatever. Though, to be fair, I mean, I do feel like there is a player base that does like that to a certain extent. But that's a whole other story. I suppose we can talk about monetization. I have a small sort of like discussion topic here regarding monetization since it was already started. We might as well just tackle it here. I mean, of course, your goal is to have no pay to win, right?
Right.
Which, of course, is something very respectable, and of course, it might be one of the biggest issues that people see in TribalWars. But I mean, of course, being that you are at an early stage of the game, funding is not really that big of an issue. But the reality is, I mean, if the game does go up and there comes a time where you do need to pay for more servers or more just more capacity for players, well, there will be just a need for funding on your end in some way. How would you plan to have monetization put into the game, and how would you see it potentially evolving over time? So, for example, I'm assuming you could at first think that having some sort of like optional monthly donation or a subscription or whatever, and then maybe you get to a point where you feel like those are no longer enough or whatever? I don't know. How do you envision this this topic of just monetization evolving when it does show up, or just generally, what do you think about it? Because that is
Yeah,
something that the people hearing this will definitely be concerned about.
totally. And I respect that. I want to say, like, straight up that this is like sort of this is a question of like focus in a sense, because my answer to this will reveal where my head is at. What I mean by that is, um, if I can tell you more about the gameplay and the mechanics and how things will work than I can tell you about the monetization, I hope that you will get the sense that my focus is more about delighting and making the players that play this game happy than I am about the monetization. And that's 100% the truth. Um, so my first answer is I haven't thought it out like to the level that you have, because I have 83 players on the server, and I am trying my best to support them, make sure that the game works for them, make sure that their ideas turn into reality. And so things like that are way more in my head day to day than monetization. When I come up for air, what I mean by that is, like, some days I'm so like wrapped into this game, uh, that there's not really the time to like zoom out and think about the future. It's just like, oh man, these guys, the attack mechanics didn't work, and they lost troops they shouldn't have lost. I need to fix that. I need to fix the bug, and I need to give them their troops back. Like, that's a way bigger concern for me, that they feel like treated fairly. Of course, when I zoom out and think about it, there is a need for monetization, just like honestly, because this started as a hobby project, um, but there's been enough feedback that makes me think there's maybe like a commercial future for this. So what does that look like? Does deserve to be talked about, and I have put some thought into it. The simplest answer I can give is, like, when I play a game, when I feel treated fairly like a game, I give it money, I get back a game, and I'm playing. Right? I would consider that pay to play, free to win. And that's generally my thought here is, maybe this game goes on Steam, maybe it comes in the App Store. There's all these challenges that, like, I need to think about and understand and research. Like, probably people don't spend $10 to try out a game on an iOS store than where they might on Steam. So there's definitely questions there, but in general, I can tell you, like, it will be pay to play. There will probably be some sort of like VIP level where you spend, let's say $5 a month, and it'll be regionally based, ideally. Um, but it doesn't reward you with gameplay advantages. It maybe gives you 50 new skins, and you can reskin each of your buildings with these 50 skins, and you just get these skins. And then when you stop paying, you can still play. You just don't get the skins. Things like that, like a cosmetic store. Um, Maybe you download the client on Steam and you get the game, but strictly speaking, I'll like categorize this in two ways. One is like never, and never ever will it be pay to play, because those games already exist. I don't want to compete with those games. They will beat me every time because they have all these years of momentum, and dedicated players, and so why should they switch? I'm going after the people that can't compete in the pay to play um, games, and they want to play the game, but they just don't want to have to pay to win. Uh, so that's kind of my target audience.
I see.
So
So
yeah,
yeah, I mean the the general idea. I think you said that the game would be pay to play, but I think you probably confused yourself. Um,
possibly.
the general idea seems to be just, well, yeah, trying to think about some way to monetize along the way when that becomes an issue, rather than of course, that being the focus right now. I mean, clearly is not.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
VIP level idea does seem interesting. I do think that it's. I mean, I don't know how it would work, right? Because this is a pretty standard game. But for skins and such, you did mention there being some sort of a store. I suppose there could also be some sort of like battle pass sort of system where you can receive like seasonal skins or the Easter battle pass, and then you've got like bunny units or whatever, like stuff like that.
You're thinking along the same lines that I'm thinking. Generally, like basically, my thought is putting more money in the game does not turn into more power for you. Like, you can buy things and like you can look different or look distinct and have your own branding, but like you're competing on the same level as everyone else.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I like that. The next question that I have here is because I mean, you already more or less talked about this, but it has to do with alliances, right? Which in TribalWars would be tribes, for obvious reasons. It just feels like tribes, allies, alliances here play a very deep role in comparison to how they perform in TribalWars, right? In TribalWars, you might even have a stronghold in some worlds, and that's like a big village where you can like build it up or something by sending resources to it. Like that is a thing, but there isn't this sort of marketplace of the tribe or like these roads thing. So it just feels like tribe cooperation is going to be super relevant here. I just am a bit worried for how that might impact the game, because it might, first of all, not be super easy for you to find a tribe, because you're probably gonna have the group of people that have been playing this since the alpha, right? And maybe they're just gonna all stick together and like dominate every world ever because they simply know more about the game. Right? I feel like that is something that could happen, and I'm a little bit scared for. And just the fact that alliances bring in so much more depth to the game, I really wonder how the gameplay of someone that isn't in an alliance is. Like, how can someone expect to be able to do anything outside of an alliance, or how does gameplay work for that specific person? Because it feels like you just have to be like deeply enrooted into some ally. Like even mechanics that come up in my head, not like mechanics, but things that happen in TribalWars, like backstabbing and stuff like that. Like, how would all of those things impact someone's gameplay here in this game? Because of alliances being just something that is like so crucial to the game. I said a lot of things, but I hope I am more or less clear.
I get what you're saying. So, like, I'll put it this way: like, you're in this alliance, Bacon. It has 3 members. I think you're in Bacon. There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're in Bacon. It has 3 members, and how can you compete with Plus Plus? Right? Like, if we look at Plus Plus, they're totally stacked. Like, they are a very powerful alliance. If we look at the high scores, like, it'll reflect. So, yeah. What's the role for these? So, there's a couple there's a couple answers to that. The easiest answer I can give you is some of these gameplay decisions like simply haven't been considered yet, and they're still under consideration. So anything I say, don't hold as truth, because like the community will come to the best answer over time, and we'll talk about that, and the right thing to do will emerge. It may take a long time, but it will happen eventually. I that's kind of the philosophy behind the whole thing. What I know today is that a sort of cool thing, and maybe this isn't cool, I'm not sure yet, but the flag during the end game, the win condition, the flag simply has to stop 3 times in a certain quadrant. So if we look at the map, just like break this down, the map is divided into quadrants because like there's a X and Y and there's a negative negative. So you can see I'm in the southwest because my quadrant, these yellow villages are mine. I'm in the southwestern quadrant. There's a northwestern quadrant, which is plus minus. There's a northeastern quadrant, which is plus plus, which is where that alliance came from, plus plus. And then there's another, like there's the fourth quadrant. Obviously, I don't need to explain directions to you guys. But each kind of deity is associated to a quadrant, and so you can switch quadrants, but like the closer you are to your deity's quadrant, probably the better situated you are strategically. It has to stop 3 times there. So imagine, like, let's look at the high scores and kind of think this through. So imagine plus plus takes the flag, and there's a whole lore behind it. I can like talk about it, but let's just talk mechanically. Imagine plus plus takes the flag and rests 3 times. At that third rest point where they've fended off 2 attacks already, like they've been through it. This is the time where those smaller alliances can go, maybe we can steal this whole thing, right? Like we've been sitting back watching. Like imagine Humi gave it their best shot, sent all their attackers. Their big hammers or their large armies are all gone because plus plus fought them off. And same thing with Cap Guy here. Well, now this smaller alliance with 2 members can go, well, plus plus is weak. Everybody else has been weakened. Maybe it's our time to steal. And so that sort of like mechanic where you get worn down as you get closer to winning allows other people to start competing right away. So that's one possible answer. Well, I want to just put this disclaimer out there that everything could change as we develop and as people come up with better ideas and better solutions than I can give you right now. But like that's one possible way that could work. Another is that, maybe this has been floated around, which is that there's sort of this NPC faction, kind of similar to barbarians in TribalWars. What if you could, as a player, like what if like so right now one alliance can win. So you either get your flag to the endpoint or you don't. And if you don't, you lose, and if you do, you win. But what if there was a third win condition, which is you outlast or nobody wins, which is this third thing, and there's like this timer that starts. And what if like the cultists, which are the NPC faction, what if you could join those guys and kind of forfeit your game and say like I'm going to join this NPC tribe that's trying to stop everyone from winning, and maybe I kind of can win that way. That's not an idea that's even been brought to the community or anything like that. So this is probably the first time a lot of people are hearing it. But there's sort of this idea that like if you can't win, maybe you can make sure no one can win, and you could still participate in the server in that way.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, just at least creates a reason for people to still play after they feel like they no longer have a chance. That's interesting.
Exactly, and especially if you've been through that, like you got destroyed. Like imagine, so I'm in Humi. Imagine plus plus just decimates us, and I get a chance to like assume a cultist village, and I have a brand new army, and I don't have to start from scratch, and I can now make it my mission to make sure plus plus doesn't win. There's some compelling gameplay to that to me. I don't know how everyone else feels. Like I said, I haven't brought this to the community, but it's this idea that's been floating in my head.
That does seem pretty interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wonder how that will go. So what you're saying basically is that if you were like someone that is alone and has no tribe, you would probably just sort of join that and try to stop the number one guys from winning, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. So even if you have no tribe, you can in some way interact with the game. Okay? That is
Still win even. Yeah.
Still win even. Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been a mess for me as well because I have like a doc with my questions or ideas of questions, and we are like going down a route that I was not envisioning because now, right? You brought up combat, and I know that you, from what I've at least understood, you seem to not be able to directly attack other players yet, for example?
Correct. So that's more a function of just it's not implemented. It's not something that's it's on the roadmap. It is a full PvP game. Yeah,
So
it's just not implemented yet.
My question here is how do you just envision that combat to be, right? Because I mean that is probably the most interesting part of TribalWars, right? Those mechanics of like back timing and sniping and overtrain. I don't know if you're familiar with those concepts.
Yeah, I
Those ideas. I wonder if there will be anything similar in the game, or if people should just expect something completely different, or just any idea of how you envision combat to be, or if you don't really envision it in any way yet, just what have the players sort of been converging to when it comes to that, if there is any sort of convergence in ideas.
Yeah. So let me start by saying, like one of the most appealing things to me, like I played Travian. There's this concept of a follow back in Travian. So imagine, you get attacked by this player, and they send their whole army at you, and you dodge their attack. So you hide all your resources and you send your army away, and then you recall them. There's this concept of like you can calculate how long it takes for their army to get back to their village, and you can send an attack that lands at the same time.
Yeah, we call it a back time in TribalWars. That's that.
Okay. So some of my favorite memories and moments of playing Travian are from those back timings.
Yeah.
Or follow backs, depending on which game you came from. So that is the combat. Essentially, it's a lot of timing based. I'll give you an example. Right now, there's this kind of the biggest PvP thing you can do is on the map. There are these cultist outposts. Like, let's just find one just to give you an example. And this needs to be out. This needs to be. So here's one. So these are filled with like 5,000 troops. You need to attack them, and they need to be wiped out within 3 seconds. Because if they're not, they resurrect. If there's one left, he will revive the entire army. So there's like this 3-second window from which you can attack, or you can knock out every single one of the cultists.
You basically coordinate with your tribe to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and ideally use the campaign planner for this. But if you enjoy that mechanical aspect, it's available to you. But yeah, you've got it. Like there's that is like kind of the introduction to the combat system, which is it's a lot of timing based. It kind of like to go deep into the mechanics, it works like this. For defense, it's accurate to the second, meaning if your defense arrives at a given second, it arrives at like 0.000 of that second, no matter what time it actually arrives in server time. For attacks, they are ordered by milliseconds. I'm going way too deep into the nerdy stuff here, but there is some nuance to it.
I like it. I really like it.
Okay, cool. Great. So the other nuance is that a target can get 8 attacks in a single second. And so the idea is actually we want to promote more sniping. Rather than you getting 20 attacks with millisecond level sniping, we want fewer attacks per second with more like second level sniping. So as long as your reinforcement arrives at that second, it's going to do that snipe. So yeah.
I do like that, especially because a really big issue in TribalWars is that now you've got people just using illegal tools that well, basically you just leave your account on overnight and they send the attack at exactly the same second as you have in your game, right? But something illegal for TribalWars, that's not something that is a part of the game. And what those tools even allow you to do a lot of the times is they just allow you to land the attacks precisely at the fucking millisecond. So it's just super annoying to deal with. Imagine your I don't know, I mentioned the concept of sniping. in TribalWars, to conquer a village, you need to send 4 noblemen, and they have like a minimum gap of like 100 or 150 milliseconds between each. So what typically is done to prevent those from being sniped is you try to land an anti-snipe. So let's say your first nobleman lands at millisecond 150, your second lands at 250, your third at 350, you get the idea. But what people with those tools are able to do is they literally can just land like a full off at the millisecond 349 or something like that, and it makes it basically impossible for anyone trying to land their troops in the middle of those 2 attacks, right? It's just completely impossible. And I see that in this game that is not going to be an issue because there is a cap on how many attacks can arrive in a second, which it sounds really good. It's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, there's like I actually love that sort of rock paper scissors game of which wave or which train is a fake train and which one should I try to snipe, because if you get that wrong, like, you're punished, and if you get that right, you win. Like, there's this really cool thing that happens there.
Exactly.
Like, imagine you send your nobleman at wave 1, right? It sounds insane, but like no one's gonna call that bluff, right? So like, I really think that that's where these games shine the most, is that I say like rock paper scissors game of trying to guess and get in your opponent's head and figure out, like, will they predict this, or is this too obvious, or is this not obvious enough, and that kind of thing. It really feels rewarding when you get that great report back.
For sure. And I mean, that brings me to a different question, still related to combat. Do different units here also have different runtimes, or is the runtime based on just the distance that you have? I assume different units have different runtimes. That's like the default.
Yeah. That is correct. So each unit, of course, you're like, well, my units are all out and about attacking. So let me go to a different village and see if I can give you. Okay, so this village has 2 unit types, and you can see here, like, this Legion Initiate moves 6 fields per second.
Okay.
Per hour, and this moves 5. And it's not really well enough documented, but if you hover over this, you kind of get an idea. So tiles per hour. Actually, looking at this, I can see that there's a bug because this should move 18 and this should move 15. But bear with me, it's still an alpha. But that's the idea, yeah. So these, like, the siege units, of course, will be the slowest units, I think, overall. So that kind of adds all this balance. But there's like a cool thing, like, you chose the Nord tribe. Exactly. They have the fastest in the game. The Berserker moves, I think, like 18 fields per hour, if I remember correctly. So they're crazy fast compared to everybody else. And they, I don't know if TribalWars has this. Tell me if I'm telling you things you already know. But there's a difference between infantry and cavalry defense. So some attackers are especially vulnerable to cavalry, and some are, more vulnerable to infantry. So
more the type or less. Yeah,
gotcha. Yeah. So that this game inherits that DNA.
In TribalWars, you would probably you have like units that are specifically strong against other units. So, for example, axes are very strong against spears, but axes are like terrible against swords. So if you know someone is attacking you with like 9,000 axes and 100 horses, the perfect way to defend that is to just invest in swords, because that's just gonna kill that. And the light cavalry is like really good against swords, but it's terrible against spears. Spears completely destroy those. So, for example, in speed, there's the entire strategy of it is based around initially building spears, because the light cavalry, that unit that is specifically weak against spears, is like the OP farming unit in TribalWars. So you like build up some spears in the beginning, because those have a decently fast movement speed, and also a decent carry capacity. And then when you get to a point when you can build up light cavalry, you still produce some more spears, because you know that everyone else will be building light cavalry, no matter if they're playing defensive or offensive, everyone is going to play for light cavalry, basically, for looting. And so if you are going to be attacked, you are pretty much always going to defend, or having to defend against light cavalry. So having some spears is always beneficial. Of course, there's little nuances and ways you can sort of play against that, right? I can, for example, build only my 120 spears, which is what I typically do, and I split the 120 spears in 2 attacks to different villages of 60 spears per village. You could just build up to that and then get your horses, and then just start building axes, which is the strong infantry unit against the spears. So that would be like a way to counter someone just spamming spears. So there's little different things that allow you to play better than others. This game seems to be way more complex, especially by the fact that there are so many different units, also based on which tribe you're on.
Right.
And that is not a level of complexity that exists in TribalWars, and that's also why this feels way more complex to me. And not that it isn't particularly complex, right? It's just that TribalWars is something so simple, yet there's so much strategy and sort of thought that goes into it for how simple it is. And I really just wonder how all of those same concepts will apply to this game, where everything feels a bit more complex in different aspects, basically.
Yeah. So, in some ways, it's similar, right? So, in general, tribes kind of have a specialty. I would say that what Conquer Quest does differently to TribalWars is it leans into specialization in many ways. So, like in this server, I'm a Roman. A Roman is a more balanced troop type. I can produce really great defense. I can produce really great offense, but it costs me more than it does you, a Nord, or my neighbor, an Egyptian. So those are, just to like step back a little bit, those are the 3 tribes: is Egyptian, Nord, and Roman. So as a Roman, I'm a balanced player. I can go offense or defense and do both really well, but it costs me quite a bit. And in particular, it costs me a lot of iron. You, as a Nord, your troops in general are more defensive based. And you even have like buildings that support that, right? The Nord has a stockade, which is basically a prison. So visiting troops, a certain number of them just kind of fall for traps, and you can negotiate their return, or you can choose to kill them, whatever it is. You feel benefits you. That's your choice. But you capture these troops, and then of course the traps are occupied. But so maybe there's some incentive to free them. And anyways, I'm getting way too deep into the mechanics. Finally, the Egyptians are like a very like they produce really cheap medium quality units, but the rate at which they can produce them gives them first a major bonus in early game, because they can get troops out faster than everyone else. And then by late game, if they've been active, they have way more troops than everyone else. So they have like a higher potential, I would say. But it's balanced by activity. So, and then each of them kind of has, like, you as a Nord spend more clay building up your army than I do as a Roman, and my neighbor as an Egyptian spends more wood. So there's some balance there. But essentially, this game leans into specialization, and that's actually something I've seen more people asking for more of in general. Like, there's sort of this whole conversation going on in the Discord about even like a skill tree, where some players want to play a more economy-based game than a war-based game. They want to build up their villages and maximize the economy in their empire more than they want to be warlords. And of course, some players really want to be warlords. So that specialization is something I think we're going to lean more into than TribalWars does. So in some ways, like you can look at a Nord and guess that they are going to be defensive, but like I said, they have access to the fastest raider, one of the best cavalry units in the game. So maybe they're not. And as I said, that a report just came in, so we can look at my mission finished up, and uh, this is a hard mission, and I gained a fair amount of resources that are coming back. And I can, of course, there are sort of NPCs that come up based on inactive players. Just to call that out, because I think you said earlier, like um, missions are the top way to produce resources. You can actually, just so you know, you can raid these NPCs right now. They have full on. Oops, I misclicked there, but they have full on. PvP is open for these guys, so I'll send my whole army at this poor guy, and they'll start their raid. But sorry, I went off on a massive tangent. But yeah, essentially, we're leaning into the specializations.
Yeah, okay. That is very interesting, because, yeah, it's not a thing at all in TribalWars. And I suppose that might be something that is spooky for people. It was a little bit to me, to be honest, when I first got into the game and had to select a tribe. That screen definitely needs more info, by the way, because you just select a tribe. There's no info on what each tribe is good at, or what each tribe like spends more of, or whatever. I feel like those are just things that should be there.
I agree completely. I agree completely. Like these are these blind spots that, like, yeah, of course, of course, Nords get a little bit extra merchants, and their merchants are faster, but nobody else knows that because it
Of
only
course.
exists in my head. So yeah, that needs to be documented better, 100%.
So now, also moving in the same direction that we were, right? Combat, more or less. A thing that I feel like is something that could be more explored in TribalWars is just how simple supporting villages is. So in combat in TribalWars, I mean, you are free to attack whoever you want, and you are free to support whoever you want. But say I support a tribe mate. If I support a tribe mate, that tribe mate can't do anything with my units apart from just recall them. Do you think that if you do implement some feature of this kind, like supporting teammates, do you think it would be deeper than just sending your units somewhere and then the teammates recalling them? Like, for example, would you possibly consider the idea of me sending my offensive units to you so you can like use them yourself as you please in some mission? Like, for example, I'm like 10 tiles away from the village you want to attack, and you have a village 2 tiles away from the village you want to attack. I would like support you with my troops or something. Like, do you think any of this would make some sense? And like, for example, allowing teammates to like move the troops that you support them with to some other village of theirs. Like, more than just the supports being something that is stationary in a specific village. This is a very like specific question and topic from me, but I hope that's not too bad.
No, it's not. It really goes into some nuance that like, we've talked about a lot on the Discord. One of them is that in general, defenses have a lot of advantages over offenses because defenses, of course, stack, right? Like to your point, if I send all my defensive troops to my ally and everyone else in my alliance does, they get the full defensive support of the alliance versus one person's attack.
Yeah, that's what happens in TribalWars too. Yeah.
Yes. Plus, you have the wall bonus, which gives a defensive bonus. So the attacker has the has like the fakes, like the who actually is getting attacked. They have that advantage, but mechanically, in a 1v1, the defender has the advantage.
And also, it feels like that would be the case because, as you mentioned, in TribalWars, we're fighting with like hundreds, sometimes thousands of villages. Here, you can fake like 30 villages and send a real attack to like 10 of them. In TribalWars, you probably would fake 500 villages and send a real attack to 100 of them, for example. It's just a different scale, and in TribalWars, you have to like defend more little things if you want to hold those villages, versus here where you just have less villages basically in comparison.
Yes. So the answer to that is it ties back to this idea of like the outpost system. Um, the idea that these pieces of infrastructure are like crucial to winning a war. Of course, there's sort of these 1v1s where you get into disputes with your neighbors, and it's a different beast, right? Than like full out war. But the general idea, and this is based off player feedback, is that like we almost want villages to feel like a tertiary target, if that makes sense. So we want we want attackers to feel more benefit out of destroying an outpost, an alliance shared outpost, than out of destroying one person's village. Because nobody likes waking up to a destroyed village. Like that's a moment where you quit and you take a year-long break, and that kind of sucks. So the general idea here is that we want alliance outposts to feel more rewarding to take over than villages. The so like what we have to do is make alliance outposts offer a ton of benefits. Right now they have the NPC trader. Okay, that's great. They offer like you can build roads from alliances. They give your troops faster reinforcement speed if they're walking on a um if they're walking on a road. They give your merchants greater capacity and they move faster. But like the long term vision is that alliances also become kind of a main point of dispatching your troops. So imagine you send 5 different offensive armies to one alliance outpost, and they kind of get merged there, and then from there you can send them. But the cooler thing that happens is like I can set up an outpost anywhere I want, right? So if I was taking on plus plus, which they live up here, here's one of their outposts that they've captured. If I put an outpost right here, I'm free to do that, right? Like I could do that right now if I had if I had the money for it. Which I well might say money, I mean resources. Which I do. So like let's just say, just to be rude to these guys, I build an outpost right here. Boom. Right. So now I can send all my troops here, all my offensive troops here, and I can attack their outpost from 4 squares away or any of their villages. So the outpost system kind of is the we want that to feel like really important to alliances to own. But yes, to your answer to answer your question, I love the idea of merging offensive armies because they do have a disadvantage. But I think that it would probably come from this outpost system.
Okay, that I mean that does make sense, and it's great that you can just sort of move your outpost anywhere. Of course, you have to consider the fact that if you move your outpost literally into your opponents, they are probably just gonna like catapult it infinitely, and they're not gonna be able to do anything with it, right? Something like that.
Yes, yes. So there are trade-offs to doing this, 100%. But
Exactly.
you can also just annoy them or whatever it is, however you want to think about it. Like there's some strategy there that hasn't been discovered, but I'm confident that it's out there.
And you said your tribe can only have one outpost, or it can have more than one.
Well, your tribe can have pretty much infinite outposts. You need
Okay.
3 to win. You need 3 connected outposts that go from 0-0 to the corner of your quadrant to win because they need to be connected by roads. But
Right.
like I have 4, and also I guess it's important to note like they can be upgraded. So the more you invest in them, the more benefit you get out of them. Like the NPC trade rate goes up, the speed and the merchant capacity increases with the more investment you have in your outpost.
Makes sense, yeah. So I mean, the outposts themselves are something super strategic, and you could, for example, like set up. I don't know if spies are a thing in your game, right? Where you are allowed to see the troops that some opponent has in their village if you attack someone with spies. But I'm envisioning like you set up an outpost near the enemy tribe and you just build spies there and you fill it with defense so that it's not worth for the enemy tribe to get rid of it, and you just don't even upgrade it, you just fill it with defense and you start spying everyone. Something like
Yeah,
that.
I think that the spying thing is so interesting. Like it's actually come up a lot. Like some of the most inspired conversations, and I think there's probably like in the future of outposts, a building like at a if you can think of like a central intelligence building, and spies actually maybe even do more than just give you troop numbers. They kind of uh they give you kind of rumors about your opponents that feel more like less game mechanical. They still give you that benefit of knowing like, okay, they probably have a large army here, but you
And
get
also
like
the
maybe
buildings, that's relevant.
yes, exactly. You might get a little extra data than like some flavor, but also that kind of helps you inform your strategy.
Sounds interesting, yeah. Sounds um well the now I'll just follow up with the order that I had. My next question was how does someone win in the game, but we already talked about it, so I'll just
Yeah.
yeah. I think this question is nice now. Um, just what differentiates skill between players in this game? Because at this stage, I mean, of course, the game feels very simple and it feels like, I mean, at least right now, I'm obviously still in the beginning, but I'm still just like upgrading my village. I'm still like figuring out how I can conquer new villages. I'm still like figuring out what more I can do apart from just the missions for getting resources, stuff like that.
Uh,
Um, what really at this stage differentiates the skill between players? Is it really just a matter of like finding the most optimal build, or is there some more to it? And if there isn't now, maybe there might be something that you are considering in the future, like for example, some farming abandoned villages mechanic like we have in TribalWars,
yeah.
or I don't know, just something that differentiates players. What would that be? I guess yeah.
I would say right now, like there is this farming. Like Slick is the top player. Slick is incredible at Conquer Quest, I must say. But he has been raiding the NPC villages. That's all you can raid right now. That will change, of course. I want to assert that, but so there is. I would say right now it's probably a little too biased towards activity, meaning the more time you put into the game, probably the better you will be. Like there's a genuine problem with missions, which is that if you sit there and do them every chance you get over 24 hours, you will come out ahead of someone that's not doing that. Um, and you will come out way ahead of someone that's not doing that. Overall, I think that like in any game, like the reality is the best players have the most knowledge about the game. I don't think that my game will solve that issue, if you can even call it an issue. Like the best Valorant players in the world know they probably know the exact number of frames it takes for one gun to fire, right? Like that's just how it works. Um, but I think that the bigger question is how do we make sure people that don't have that knowledge still have fun? Um, so that's kind of a work in progress. But like I'll say like Jay from Slack, who is obviously making fun of me because my name is Jay from Discord, but Jay from Slack, I happen to know has never played a game like this, and they're the top two player. So they're number two. So in some way, I don't know what it is, but people find this game somewhat engaging somehow. Like they've never. This is not a TribalWars player. This is not a Travian player. They're just sitting there and enjoying the game. So I don't know the answer to that why. I could try to probably ask them and figure it out, but they find it fun. So there is something there about like even if you don't know what's going on, I still want you to have fun playing the game and figure it out and get to that level.
That's fair.
Right now, like I said, it's probably a little too biased towards players that put more time in. That's just got to be tweaked over time. Um, but in general, I think from the alliance, like zoom out to the alliance PvP, which is where we want most of the PvP to happen. I'd like to say that the alliance that makes the best strategic decisions, kind of plays the diplomatic game very well, plays the warfare game very well. I think that they would come out on top. And right now, it's if the server ended now and we all had to duke it out, plus plus would win, even though Humi has way more members.
I see, makes sense. I ask this question right because I'm used to TribalWars in the sense that, of course, activity is very rewarded,
Mhm.
but you've got a lot of people that manage to keep their account online 24 hours per day, and um, that is not something that usually makes them win, right? You have just in the concept of farming, you have so many different ways you can farm that if you just farm in the most optimal, most efficient way for the stage of the game you're in, you will just get way more resources than your opponents and you will perform better. So for example, in a normal world, what would typically be done in the beginning would be sending one horse to like a ton of abandoned villages near you, because that one horse has enough looting capacity. If you're sending like a horse every like 40 minutes, it has enough looting capacity for the fact that the mines are all at level 0, right? But over time, those sort of NPC villages will be upgrading and will be becoming bigger, basically. And suddenly that gap of 40 minutes no longer makes sense, and you are running into the issue that now the horse that you sent is always at its full looting capacity, basically. And you will have people in TribalWars that will fail to see that and will fail to adapt to that, and will fail to, for example, start sending 2 horses instead of 1. Just simple concepts like those really are a big differentiation in player skill in TribalWars. And even things like, for example, the villages might also upgrade their wall, right? And you're sending 1 unit. If the village has its wall at like level 2, it kills that 1 unit. You've got players that see that happening and don't adapt at all, and you've got players that see that happening and send rams to that village to drop down the level of the wall so that they can keep farming that village, basically. So you've got all of these like very micro things that are super strategic and super simple, but what they mean overall is that you could have someone 24 hours online in an account that doesn't know how to react to these different little things versus someone who actually does, and that's someone who actually does, even if they spend the same amount of time in the game, that's someone who actually knows how they are farming or what they should be farming. Like, that person is who's gonna come out on top. And I don't know if, I mean, of course, missions is a big pain point we've talked about. But I do wonder if you are thinking about implementing some sort of like abandoned villages system. Of course, you've got the cultists, but those are like the AFK players that are removed or whatever. Do you expect that in the future there may be? I'm talking for too long. I'll just
I want to answer that question because I actually will tell you, cultists in this game not only develop their villages. There's cultist personalities. They inherit these personalities. Some of them, like players, are more economic minded. Some of them are more warfare minded. Some of them might turtle, and some of them might attack. So
it's very interesting. In TribalWars, abandoned villages just don't produce anything. They just build up. No troops, no anything. Okay, I just wanted to tell you that. Next.
No, the cultists in this game react to how they're being treated. Now, that needs to be tweaked because every single cultist is being farmed to oblivion. So they all have the turtle personality, and they build up defensive troops. So that needs to be tweaked a little bit. But yeah, like no, the cultists in this game will fight back. They will send attacks to your village. They will go as far as to send attacks to your village. They do build up their defenses, like you said, so they will get they will upgrade their wall, and so suddenly you will start noticing, if you're paying attention to your reports, that that one horse you sent starts dying every time you send it. So stop doing that. So yeah, that is part of the DNA that we inherit, and that's how it works.
That's very interesting. But do you feel okay? Yeah. That's what I was gonna get into. Do you feel there is going to be a time where you would have some sort of mechanic like TribalWars does, where you just have like literally AFK villages that you can just farm? And do you feel that could be a way to differentiate between the skills of people, or are you not thinking about like clogging the map even more with abandoned villages?
No, I think that is pretty much how it works. I think it's. I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question, so I'm not sure if I'm answering it in a satisfying way or not. But I think that the idea is that oh, my internet might have gone out or something. Sorry. The idea is that players get like 20 days AFK, and then they turn into cultists, and the cultists start developing personalities from there. So yeah, 100%. If I'm understanding your question correctly, the like you can see here, let's look at this report just to see. I would know now. I mean, I haven't been farming this guy, but I sent far too many, far too many troops for the thousands or so resources that they had available to them. But so yeah, like yeah, if I was a smart player, if I was good at this game, which I would never claim to be, I
Send way
would be
less,
able
yeah.
to. Yeah, I'd be able to calculate how many you need to send and how often.
Right. Um, but basically, the idea, what I'm telling you is that in Tribal
Uh,
Wars, this this mechanic. By the way, in Tribal Wars, you would have if this village was like abandoned, you would unlock a new model that you could attack this village with, and it would immediately calculate the number of troops that you would have to send to fully empty the warehouse of that village, taking into consideration the levels of the mines. Because if you spy a village, you can see the levels of the resources. Basically,
uh,
that's like something that exists in the game. Um, the general idea that I am like saying is that in Tribal Wars we just have this system where you do spawn into the game, but each for each player that spawns, one abandoned village spawns, right? But it
uh,
wouldn't
uh,
exactly be like a cultist. It's like just something, so a village that just builds itself up, and those villages,
yes.
uh, a lot of the times just end up being conquered in the late game. But in the early game, those are probably the biggest source of resources in worlds that have a sufficient enough number of abandoned villages, and that is like the main differentiation of like player skill, right? At least in the startup.
Okay, I understand the question a little bit better now, or what you're trying to get at. Yeah, that is. I wonder how is it Inno Games? Is that how you say it? Inno Games.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I wonder how they feel about that design decision that they made, way back when. Now in 2026, um, I'm really curious. I thought about this, and this has been brought up, and there is sort of this gameplay incentive that comes from that it incentivizes essentially like multi-boxing in some ways, no? Because
What would that
like
be? Sort of like spawning
I
many villages?
yes,
Every
I can
single
go
player?
spawn 50 new villages and farm them all, and I know that they're
Yeah.
empty.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
That's like multi-account. Yeah,
yeah,
that is quite literally the next question I was gonna ask you
yeah,
about if there would be any advantage from doing that, because from what I understand, I mean, now you can't even attack other players, but in a world
right.
where you could attack and loot other players, I feel like multi-accounting would always potentially come up as an issue.
Yes, yes, of course. Um, so yeah, like, but let's go into that. So, like, to answer your question, like, that got brought up and kind of like shut down by the community sort of quickly. Like I did a stream in the Discord like a week before alpha went live, and this very thing came up, which it took me a second to like latch onto what you were saying, but yeah, this very thing came up. And so as far as multi-boxing goes, um the first thing I'll say is, like, I don't play TribalWars, or I haven't in a long time. Uh but I play a game fairly actively called Old School RuneScape, and they have a large team of people dedicated to catching cheaters, and they have the very advanced automated systems. And yet, whenever I log in, like if I were to log into my Old School RuneScape account right now, I would be surrounded by bots. Which is to say, like, there's just no good technological solution to cheating in that to that scale. The answer to that, I think, has to come from gameplay design. So I'll give an example of bad design that incentivizes cheating in my game, Conquer Quest, which is the mission system, like we said. Like, As I mentioned, it runs 24/7. It's somewhat random, but like let's say on average every 30 minutes you can send a mission. It's really not a good design, in my opinion, knowing what I know now, because someone can set up a script and simply just send missions every 30 minutes, and they're winning over someone who's not doing that and playing like manually.
Yeah.
So the answer to that is like everything we do has to consider what type of behavior this incentivizes, both good and bad. And so when we're like looking at features, we really want to think about like I think you can probably tell like the outpost features are designed to incentivize a behavior where villages aren't necessarily punished for existing, but like alliances are much more capable of bouncing back and staying in the game than a single player is if their biggest village gets destroyed or whatever, or they lose all their troops. And so that's a gameplay decision that informs behavior. And so I think that a lot of multi-boxing should be solved more through game design than it should through like technology solutions. Of course, I have some basic technology solutions in play where if you accuse someone of multi-boxing, I would be able to gather like somewhat sufficient hardware evidence to say, or I have the hardware evidence or I don't. It's very non-invasive the way I do that, but like I said, like people can get around it with a VPN. So there's really no strong way to do it with technology. It has to be through design that you disincentivize multi-boxing.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense. And in TribalWars, more than multi-account, the biggest issue I feel like is pushing for a lot of the servers. So for example, you have just a guy on like, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's like a platform that allows you to just create like sort of infinite proxy browsers, and people just like do that en masse and build up those villages, and then they just have those villages be conquered. It might not even necessarily be from the same person, so it's not necessarily like multi-account, but it's like clearly pushing when you have like one village that just like dodges its troops and lets himself be conquered for free by some other person, for example.
Yeah.
And those things are barely ever sanctioned, I feel like, in TribalWars, and when they are, the sanctions are very mild. So that is something that I made a video on, and a lot of people have agreed is an insanely big issue, and they complain about it in every server, basically.
Yeah, in a strange way, I think the pay to play format of the game kind of solves this to some extent. There's going to be always ways around this. Like it's just a hard thing to combat. But like in general, if you were paying to play a game, you're probably not paying to like make someone else better in a competitive game. So if you're economically incentivized to compete and actually try out the game more than you're incentivized to sort of just make an ephemeral account. Basically, what I'm trying to say is to in a pay-to-play system to develop villages, n number of villages requires n number of purchases, and that becomes very economically unviable at scale. Will some people do that? Yeah, probably, right? And like generally, this isn't an issue I've had to deal with yet because the scale we're at, and we have a great community of cool people. But yeah, I mean, if it does get bigger, this will be a problem. I would say that it's against the TOS, and we'd look at what it means to punish that behavior. I get what you're saying. It sucks because there's a lot of questions about even how that comes up. Like, are those even legitimate other players, right? But yeah, I don't really have a good answer for that. Unfortunately, I wish I did. It's obviously something I need to put more thought into.
Definitely fair, yeah. Well, typically in TribalWars, what people joke about, they say that's like their cousins, whatever, and then they're like just helping them or something. So you've got like tribes of cousins, just hanging around, and then they all
Yeah.
are like internaled by like one single player. I found a particularly insane example of that in the Brazilian server. That's when I recorded about it, a video about it. You had like a guy with like 80 villages, and you had a 40-member tribe, and every other member of the tribe had their village like almost full, almost maxed, and all of the little villages had opponents defeated as supporter, and basically what those accounts did is they just sent all of their defense to villages of the main guy, and then the main guy just defended with troops that weren't his, so he could just build up offensive troops, basically.
Yeah. Well, the prop system kind of helps against that, right? Because suddenly that offensive troop also has to support a defensive army. So that's like an example of the gameplay design sort of making that very difficult, because to support large numbers of defenses over time requires a lot of crop. So there's some gameplay design kind of disincentivizing that particular piece of behavior. Like, of course,
but that applies to like troops that you receive from your tribe mates.
Yes, correct. Yes, you have you have to feed your reinforcements as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then there was one other thing you mentioned that I wanted to touch on, but I'm dropping it. But I feel like there's one. Oh, yes. What if there is no village conquering, like PvP village conquering? You can conquer outposts, but not other villages, right? Like that. That definitely removes the ability to kind of build up and boost in that way. I don't know if that's the right answer, because that's something that's very appealing to most people, but that's an answer. Like, because this is such a blank slate and we're so open to like the feedback, I think that we'll get to good answers if we talk about it with people that are in the know over time. So that's one. That's like one possibility that just jumps off my head. It's like, what if PvP just happened between outposts, and then the smaller alliance size. I think is a key differentiator here. In this game, your alliances is capped at 20 members, so you can have 20 kind of feeder villages that are boosting one member. But if you're against 20 legitimate players that are like competing to win, I think that I'd like to think that in general, the 20 legitimate players versus the one guy managing 20 villages and 19 of them are like boosts. I think that the 20 legitimate players have a better shot. So the cap on the alliance size probably helps this design problem, but maybe not. I mean, we haven't played a full game yet. We don't know. We don't know some of these things.
Of course, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's just things that you will uh, discover over time. And you've brought up
Yes.
a big point now on like conquering villages. How does just getting new villages work nowadays? I feel like that's a really big thing, and people who are listening to this probably have an interest on that.
Yeah. So to expand your empire, it requires culture points. So culture points are an accumulation of all your villages. So like when you start, you have one village. You have one village producing culture points. At this point, I have what, 7 villages, I think. So I have 7 villages producing culture points, and they produce 5,000, close to 6,000 a day. And so they're kind of like these benchmarks. They basically scale up like 7% each level. So every 7 villages, the number of culture points doubles. It might even actually be more aggressive than that. I need to look at the formula. But like I think you need 2,000 culture points to get your first village. You need close to 100,000 to get your 8th village. So yeah, you accumulate these culture points. You can do things to boost your culture points, like the town hall has a celebration. If I run this celebration, I'm going to get 500 culture points immediately. And you can see, because of my town hall level, the amount of time it takes to run a celebration is reduced to like close to 6 hours now for me at level 9. If I were to, let's go to my other village here. You can see level 10, I can actually do a great celebration. which lasts for 14 hours, but rewards me with 2,000 culture points. So there's all these ways to kind of grab culture points along the way. But in general, that's what you need to expand. After that, you also need to train a specific type of troop at a building called a residence. So this building has a residence, and I can train, let's see, I can train one settler. I have enough money for, or I say money, I have enough resources to train one settler because I'm bottlenecked on crop. So if I train a settler, it will start running. And you can see that this village is ready to have a settler. It has an expansion slot, which essentially just means it has a level 10 residence, and I have enough culture points. So once I train 3 settlers, I can go to the map, I can pick a tile on the map, and when I do that, I will. This will change to can settle, and I'll have a button to settle, and boom, I'll get my next. I'll get my next village. The tutorial explains this better than I can. I hope, but it's a little complicated. But yeah, it's a mix of kind of developing your village to a certain point, training these settlers, and having the right buildings at the right level.
I see. Makes sense. This feels to me like it's just more designed to sort of allow you to expand around your area than actually eventually go on to conquering people. Because how would this even work? Like, you would have to make your settler go through in some attack and not be killed. It seems a bit strange how this would work, like on PvP basically. Maybe.
I would say settlers would not be related to PvP. If there is village conquering, there would be something similar to a nobleman. Probably not the coin system, which does not make any sense to me as a non-TribalWars player. But something similar to a nobleman, separate from a settler. So there's essentially, if there were to be village to village conquering, you'd have 2 ways to expand your empire. One is through settling, an economic route, and one is through the military route.
Okay, that seems pretty interesting. Very very straightforward. We'll look for more questions here. Oh, this is an interesting one. Have you thought about the possibility of there being different victory conditions? Or are you going all in this current idea of yours of this sort of capture the flag type of thing? I'm thinking about, well, just hosting different servers, right? Hosting different worlds over time. Because in TribalWars you have like a new world coming out every 2 months, and the victory condition might be different, right? In one, it might be like percentage dominance of total player-owned villages. In one other, it might be sort of like something more similar to yours, for example. In others, it would be like run villages, which is like capturing and holding some specific villages, and they reward you with a number of points each day or whatever. And then it gets to point. You get what I'm saying. Basically, just do you feel like there will ever come a time where you have more than just one victory condition, or do you feel like the game is too built into this one specific idea, and it would be a bit strange or complex to be thinking about different victory conditions at this stage?
Yes. So the answer is a little bit about. The first thing is that the game is designed like from a just a pure code perspective to not be locked into any one decision. So the game speed, the number of players allowed, the size of the map, kind of anything that feels variable, there is a variable for it that is configurable in the game. And the end game, just transparently, is not designed like it's designed in my head, I guess, like the physical implementation, like what code needs to be written, but that's not implemented yet. When it will be implemented, it will, like everything else, not be a one-way door. And I try to think of things as like one-way or two-way doors. Like, can I back out of this decision if it feels bad easily? And so the answer is, from a coding perspective, yeah, that should be a configuration option when I start a new game. From a just a state of the game now perspective, um, that is something that comes with scale in players. Because what I think will kill the game, or what will not be healthy for the game, more accurately, is 25% of players prefer these victory conditions, and another 25% prefer these, and so they split up, and so you end up with these like really small disparate games. Basically, you split the community
Makes sense, yeah.
before it's ready to do. So that is something that needs to come with maturity that we're just not at yet. But um, in the long run, it's built towards that goal. But today, the community itself is not ready for that kind of thing.
Makes sense. Makes total sense. And that brings me into another question, which you talked about a little bit. If there is just going to be space for different settings between rounds, like for example, you have a round with a speed 1 and you have another round with speed 2, for example, so double the speed, or potentially even the villages starting with different start levels. So for example, you're starting with your mines already at like level 3 or something, so that you start with more resource production. Like, is the game designed to allow for that, or and like another example, of course, even more impactful in this game. Like for example, switching the cap of members per tribe, sometimes having it be 10, for example. Like,
Yeah.
is it designed to be able to do that, or there's this sort of base settings and that's kind of just what it is?
I would say anything that has a number attached to it, or that number has a mechanical impact on the game, is pulled from some type of configuration. Uh, so yes, in general, almost everything. Like, okay, I say it has a number on it. Like the Alliance cap size, that has a number on it. I can switch that to 25 tomorrow for this game only. Some things like you asked about, like there's just transparently, there's no way right now to start a game and start with a level 3 field. It's a great idea. And it's not out of the question. It's simple to implement, but a lot of it, I would say, is built around the idea that most of the things that we have, most of the numbers, I use that term to like talk about like production rates, how long things take to make, etc., how long things cost, or how much things cost. I'm going to get those wrong more than I'm going to get them right as I'm developing, and they will go through many iterations as people like play the game and go like, "Whoa, berserkers are way too powerful. Reduce their attack power." Okay, heard. Let's try out. Like right now it's 75. Let's try out 65. So a lot of those numbers are definitely configurable and changeable. Not everything you said are changeable easily at this state, but almost everything that like is a design decision is built to back out of quickly.
Okay, that makes sense. That's interesting. My next question is. My next two questions are very around what you expect the game to look like. So my first question here is, how long do you expect a normal world to last for, and how often do you plan on opening new worlds when this opens up, right?
Yeah. So, in a perfect, like, let's just pretend like the game is a semi-smash hit in a very niche genre that not very many people play. Which I would consider like, let's say 5,000 real players, right? So like it's a hard question to answer because like what feels what feels good for a server size, we don't know. Like how many people on a world feels correct and competitive is a question mark because we haven't tested that yet. So that needs to be figured out. But like, let's just pretend like there's 5,000 players, and I want someone. I want to onboard new players at a rate that like they can always jump into a game and not be too far behind. So my kind of like vision is that there's probably 9 game worlds rotating, and one starts roughly every month, so that nobody's ever jumping into a game and they have to like they're 60 days behind or whatever. Um, they would be at most, like 4 weeks behind, and hopefully there's uh, enough rewards that they can quickly get caught up to speed. So that's like the vision. But of course, if there's only like let's say 500 players, there's probably only a need for one world, because 500 probably is the limit at which it starts to feel competitive and meaningful to win. So that's going to change. That's going to scale with the game and with the growing player base. But it's designed, of course, to host n number of worlds. And if I have to have 20 worlds, I'm probably a really happy guy, because that means a lot of people are playing, and so that'd be awesome. But if it's only one, it's only one. That's fine. Like if there's 500 really dedicated players that enjoy the game and that's what they want to do, that's what the community is. That's what we'll build it, and that's what we'll build. That's who we'll build the game for and with.
Makes sense. Although my question was a little bit more specific, maybe than I made it out to be.
Okay.
My idea here is how long do you expect a server to last from the moment it starts to the moment
Yeah.
the tribe reaches the victory condition?
Okay. Well, even that is unknown. I would say that like I would target probably on a normal world, not a speed world, something like 90 days. Um, I've played around with this a lot, but I think that the answer that I'm going to give you is that the most likely outcome is that the flag is available on day one. Uh, I would expect that no one would have enough army to capture the flag on day one and start marching it towards their home or towards their target. But that's kind of the general idea, is that it's sort of a race to see who can develop their infrastructure in such a way that they have a big enough army to start taking it, and then do they have the defenses at the same time to defend themselves from it. So that number will come around, but like that will flush out over time. But I'd say like 90 days on a normal paced world probably feels right to me. But I wonder what you think, actually, if I can flip this back on you.
Right. Well, it is the most annoying thing to me on TribalWars. Of course, the fact that I have to play 24 hours per day is a big pain point. But if I have to play 24 hours per day for 15 days, I can more or less tolerate it. I can sort of coordinate with my friends, and we'll all hop into one account and play. And by the way, that's another question. If you wanna note it down or something, how will co-playing affect the game? Do you feel like co-playing should be allowed, as in I play in my account, but I have a friend also playing in my account, so that we can like be active 24/7 or something? But yeah, that's unrelated to the topic now. It's really hard because, for example, in TribalWars, you've got the mechanic of churches, and if you add churches to worlds, it instantly just makes worlds be super slow, because the things churches do is it basically just forces you to conquer in like a cluster, right? So you have like some sort of radius of influence around you, and all of your villages that are in that radius are sort of like boosted in their defensive and offensive power, while as not like boosted, they are like normal, while villages outside of that radius are deboosted. They only have like 50% of their defense and attack power. So you are very encouraged to just like sort of turtle up and to conquer abandoned villages near your radius, versus in a world where you don't have that. And in those cases, there are more incentives for you to, well, go outside of your radius and to target the nearest guy next to you, because he's like the nearest but also not so near, like kind of far, because he's like the only competition you have is like the one guy that is like looting around your area and no one else is. So there's like strategic decisions that become unlocked when you have this freedom to just conquer anywhere. And I'm saying all of this because a church world, because of this need for turtling, it typically lasts. I have no clue because I'm not a world player, but I would say it lasts probably at least 6 months more than a normal world. I could be totally wrong here, but a normal world in itself, it probably, if it is fairly competitive, it probably lasts like 6-9 months, and I feel like that is an insane number. I mean, your 90 days definitely feels a bit more normal, right? It feels right, but I mean, then I just have a question back at you, because you talked about like having 9 different servers open and sort of allowing for people to just hop in whenever and for them to not feel like they are so behind. First of all, I think that would be a bit strange if worlds only run for like 90 days, as you said, because if they only run for 90 days and someone can join like 4 weeks in, that's like 30 days. That's like a third of the duration of the world.
Right.
If that person still has the same chances as someone who's been there since day one, it just feels a little bit strange. Plus, you already mentioned the fact that you are planning on sort of like releasing new worlds every like 30 days. So what this would lead to, if we're like calculating, right, it would be a world closes each month and there's like three worlds running at once, basically. So you have a world that started in January, it ends 90 days after. So in April, right, in the month 4, and then you have the month that started in February and it would end in May. So what I'm envisioning is, well, you would try your best to funnel people towards the most recent world,
right?
And surely those players that join into that world, they are not going to be so behind in comparison to the others, because the runtime of the world hasn't been so long in comparison to the other worlds that are more like advanced and deeper into the winning condition.
Right. Yeah, I think you're kind of grasping the complexity here, which is this sort of, there's this perfect formula of how many worlds run, and it matches with the rate at which new players are jumping in, and yeah, there's a lot. I even think about, like, so much of this is just theory and not really like talked about or discussed. It just kind of lives in my head. But like, what if there was a world with like a really hard to reach win condition, similar to the church's world, where at least you can kind of like almost think of it like a lobby room or a waiting room where you can kind of play and explore the game and see if you like it, but you're not really committed to like this more intense game style.
More of a test sort of world where you are not even a tackle or something. You're just like checking it out and following along the tutorial, whatever.
Some kind of like low commitment world where you can kind of go, is this game for me? Because like, I think you'll agree, new players are really important for the health of the game, because if you end up just competing against the same people every time, it feels less satisfying than sort of the randomness of a jumbled up server with who knows who's in it and how they play, and you kind of have to figure them out, and it adds this like novel gameplay each time you go through it, because the mix of people changes the outcome and changes the flow and the pace of the server. So yeah, I think that there has to be this like option for new people that like want to check it out. There has to be something there for them that's compelling and feels like fun to play. So like, again, I don't know what that looks like yet, but I know that it has to exist.
Yeah, I see. I mean, that makes total sense. Just sort of having a sort of a landing point for new players to get situated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I must tell you that I definitely don't agree with the idea that playing against the same players should always feel the same, because I mean, in TribalWars, right, I'm sure that there's plenty of people who I could play against that in one specific occasion they would play full defense and they would try to like rush for heavy cavalry, which is a super defensive unit, and they would try to make me lose the game by attacking them early or something. And other times maybe they would play full offensive, and like I think that people can definitely adapt more than you probably are giving them credit for. I think there is a point to playing the same guy a lot of times, because that also unlocks more potential strategy from both you and your opponent. You can just try different things out and see how it all goes.
Yeah. I can see that. That sort of comes back to the rock paper scissors, like great analogy. Like if we zoom out and they go, okay, last time he chose rock, this time I'm going to choose paper, and like kind of you on the other side going like, okay, they know I played rock last time. Am I going to play scissors this time because I think they're going to play paper? Or you get what I'm saying, right? Like it goes back to that. Like you have to jump into your opponent's head, and I guess like the point you're saying is if they're a repeat opponent, you have more data on how they think, and that can actually give you an advantage, or it can give you a false confidence that changes and lets you play into their hands. So I guess I can see that. So maybe I'll rethink my stance on that.
Nice. Now another question, more or less on the same idea as this one. Well, the length of worlds. How much time per day do you think someone should spend looking at the game to be fairly competitive? We talked about people being online 24 hours per day, and of course having an advantage because they can run missions or be farming constantly and stuff like that. I feel like that is probably always going to happen, but like in general, what kind of is your goal, right? How much time do you expect people to be spending in this game per day to be able to compete?
Yeah, great question. So, all things being equal, I think you already said this, but like two players of equal skill and equal strategic thinking, um, like let's pretend the strategies are exactly equal, even though we know in reality, like one strategy will beat another. Um, Player with more time is probably always going to win, and that's like just a design problem that is hard to beat. But a lot of the things I'm doing and a lot of the features I'm building, like if anybody's been watching the screen throughout this podcast, you've probably seen a little pop up here that said, crop level 7 completed, starting crop level 8 from queue. That's very much by intent. Like, I'm not here to try to capture players' attention 24/7 and make them feel like they have to play or they're missing something. I want to make them feel like they can check in a few times a day, manage their queue, send out a raid, whatever that feels like, and then kind of put it away and stop thinking about it. But maybe, if you get a notification that your village is under attack, you might want to check in then, unscheduled. But in general, it should feel very much like you're in this kind of maintenance mode, I think. I don't want players playing 24/7. I don't want to disrupt people's lives. That's like one of the reasons I can't play Travian anymore, is because I have a family and a career, and I don't have time for those things. But I do have time to get onto Conquer Quest, set up my queues in a couple villages. I mean, if I look here, like this is probably a pretty neglected village, but like let's fix that, right? Like I can go queue this. It's going to start immediately, so let me queue this. And
by the way, your mic is like making some sort of vacuum noise or something strange.
Oh, really?
No, it's fine. Now it seems fine. Okay.
Yeah, in general, I want people to like use the 24-hour queue to the fullest extent. And I'll even go like so far as to say this just seems to be maybe a design flaw, but like I can build both a resource and a village center field or tile at the same time. So I can upgrade this and you can see that it's working. And the queue kind of understands that parallelism as well. So you can like load this up with things to do. So you can like log in the morning, check what's happened and start your queue and then get on with your day. I don't want people like, this is not a game. It's a 90-day game. I don't want you spending 24/7 for 90 days. It's not fair. It's not a good thing to ask people, and it builds resentment towards the game. And that's not how I want people to feel when they play the game. I want them to feel like rewarded for doing things, but I don't want them to feel pressured to come back or else they might miss something. So, yeah, to answer it, as much as feels right to them, like there should be something to do for people that want to sit there for 18 hours a day and look at their empire. Those people exist, and there should be something to do for them. There's also people like myself that I have a lunch break. I have a after work kind of downtime, and I wake up early in the morning, and those are the times that I can like really check in, and I can still kind of compete. I might not be the top player, but I can still be a valuable asset to an alliance because these systems exist that let me do those things.
Makes sense. Yeah. So, well, to still be helpful, you definitely don't have to spend your entire life around the game. That's
Yeah.
something I think many people will be pleased to know. You touched on some aspects here, especially the queue thing. In TribalWars, we do have the account manager, and it feels like what you are going for here with the idea of the queue and all of that, like you try to market it as a really big, like, helpful thing that it just lets you sleep in peace and stuff like that. In TribalWars, we have something that I believe is far superior. It only is available from 5 villages onwards for some stupid reason, but that's InnoGames being InnoGames. But basically, as long as you have the account manager, you can set up your account manager to follow a specific build path in your villages. So you can like assign your account manager model to a village, and it will build the buildings at that exact path that you created with that model. Or if you're using a default model, it's just the default path that whatever. And for troops, you have something similar as well. You can tell the game what your final composition of troops should be in that village with that manager, and it slowly builds it up over time and keeps the queues constantly up. While in this game, well, you do have the queue thing, right? But that requires a player input, and for the troops as well, same story. I mean, I can go there, recruit 50 units, but when those units run out, I couldn't recruit more than 50 because I didn't have the resources at the time. But in like 6 hours, I have the resources, but I don't want to log into the game to build other 50 units, which is what I have the resources for. But it's like that same sort of repetition that these games sometimes may have is what to me just feels unstrategic and just sort of like clicky, right? It's just like clicking to do something that in the end will provide you with strategic value, right? You're gonna attack a village with that, or you're gonna defend a village with that. But the action of actually, well, building up the level of something, or recruiting units or something, I do feel like TribalWars handles this very well with the account manager feature, and I do wonder if you've maybe got some plans to have something of that kind, right? To just allow people to sort of set what their next things to upgrade should be, or for example, set the goal of having like 100. No, like 1,000 of a specific unit, and the game just like recruits like one more unit or something as it is able to, as it has the resources to, until it reaches that one value. I don't know what you think about stuff like this.
Yeah. I would just say, like, I proposed that to the community as I was building the queue. Was like, what if you had these? I didn't know about this feature. It sounds incredible, because like it's kind of fun to build your first couple villages, and a brand new server. There's sort of something, at least for me, nostalgic about it. But by the time you're on your 30th village, it's like this again.
Exactly, yeah.
I brought this up to the community, and believe it or not, at the time, it kind of got shot down. I think it's probably worth talking about again, but people said at the time that they enjoy building out their villages. Like I said, this game, a top player will have like 50 villages. So there's a little bit less of that click intensity, as you mentioned. Um, I think that I'd like to wait a couple iteration cycles of an actual game before committing to something like a troop planner feature. It does sound cool, but I wonder how in practice people will actually decide. Like some of these things you're talking about, like will be informed by whatever the meta of the game becomes, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
Um, yeah, and so like, what if it's not the meta of the game that it may not make sense to build troops in every single village. It may make sense to kind of build most of your villages as feeders for your kind of main offensive village. Or vice versa. Like I don't know. I think we need to wait for a sort of meta to emerge to commit to things like that. Like they're worth discussing and having on the list, but I kind of always like say to people who come to me with fantastic ideas that just it's not the right time for. It's like I don't really ever try to say no to people, and I'm more accurately saying like not yet. So I love the idea. I need like the community's input on it. Like I will say it's technically feasible. There's nothing that makes that difficult for me. And the queue system is like really easy to build a template off of and start building your villages. Like I thought people were gonna want that right away. So I built that with that in mind, and then I asked, and everyone was like, "No, like we like this." So like, okay, all right, I'm not gonna build it because you told me not to. Um, but of course that might change. But yeah, like I said, I think we just need to wait for a meta to emerge before we do anything like that. Like it sounds awesome, but who knows what the future has? Like it's so ambiguous that big features are a little scary to commit to because I could spend a week building something that no one uses in 3 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense, and I mean I can definitely also understand the community in the sense that, well, they're all still just figuring out what the point of like upgrading one village instead of the other, upgrading one like building instead of the other does. Let alone like having ideas on like super long unit queues or super long queues of like buildings and stuff. But I mean, I do wonder, why did you choose to go down the path of limiting the the time your queue can go for? Because I think I read somewhere that in the past you could just queue up buildings infinitely, and now you need to like research longer queue times, which to me just feels a bit like underwhelming because I did come in with the idea that I could just like, I don't know, I want to like upgrade all of my resources to level 5 like instantly, like right when I start up the game, because I feel like that's like the default level or something. I mean, imagine I think that way. I feel like I should, I mean, following the philosophy of the game, I mean, I should be able to just click Q in all of them and then have them all go up to level 5, even if it takes like 5 days for all of that to happen. I don't know. I would like to definitely know what made you choose for the queue system to work as it does.
Yeah. So actually, if you were watching the screen, I briefly went to this polls feature that the game has. Of course, this poll is probably expired by now. I could show you the results, but I'd have to go to this. I mean, it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is this polls feature was built because like I wanted to like really get the temperature of the community on the queue. So um, the building queue was 100% designed and then voted on by the community. So it became very clear when the game started. There was no queue. People asked for the queue. They had all these ideas of how it should work. And a fun thing I get to do is sit back and watch people talk. And as they talked, like a consensus formed and a great idea emerged. And so in the early game, you get like, well, let's just make this simple. Let's go take a look at the queue research. So, first of all, Romans start with a level 2 queue that was voted on. It's like a tribe feature perk. So you can kind of see. I'll go ahead and research a level 5 queue just for fun. But yeah, these were the tiers that were voted on. They wanted it to work this way, and so the way it works is you run this research. This one takes 8 hours, so there should be a timer here. It's not showing. I guess it is right here. So I'm a few seconds into it. But yeah, this was 100% developed by the community. They designed it, and we voted on it, and the fairly overwhelming response was that this is the system they wanted. So I guess the idea is the early game, and this kind of goes with the pattern I feel when I play games. So this makes sense to me, and I wonder if the way and the cadence at which I play games informs this. And maybe that's true of most of the community, is the first few days of the server, I'm really excited because it's what's going to happen? I don't know. There's all these possibilities. I'm kind of tuned in and logged in and watching. So the 1 hour queue is more than sufficient for me because I'm probably checking in a little bit more. I'm a little bit more active during that 1 hour.
That makes sense. That applies a lot to my experience as well, for sure.
Yeah, there you go. And then plus my production is so terrible that even though I get an hour, it may be another hour or two before I have enough resources to meaningfully queue up more things. So there's something there, which the queue kind of grows with you as you game. And so by the time I'm at this point, I can have 24-hour queue. I can maybe check in once a day if I'm a pretty low active player, medium activity player. I can check in once a day and do that, but I think that this probably promotes a certain behavior, which is that it incentivizes you to log in more at the beginning and get yourself established, and then kind of back off as you get more advanced. Maybe this is my philosophy is this: nothing's ever set in stone. This game is never done. It will always be under development as long as it's alive and people are playing it. So maybe this becomes a bigger problem for the community at some point, but I will just tell you, and you probably felt this, that the queue is not the biggest pain point people have. There's bugs, there's other issues that are more important, so that nobody's really complaining about the queue right now. And my attention and my focus is around what are people complaining about? What friction are people experiencing, and how can I solve that? And the queue has not been a very loud one. If more people get louder about it, it tells me two things. One is we've solved a lot of other friction, which is great, and now we can move on to this one and we can redesign it and talk about it again. But if I don't hear a lot of chatter about it, it probably tells me it's good enough for now. And so that's always the case. Is I'm always kind of where the chatter is and where people are talking about. I'll give you an example. Someone just asked in the marketplace if we can have a duplicate trade, or copy last trade. That's been asked for a lot. It's probably a really high priority item for me to get to next because everybody's been asking me about that. But the queue has been less of a thing people ask for. But one day maybe they will, and we'll revisit it then. You know what I mean? So it's always going to be, yeah.
No, for sure. I mean that makes total sense. I'm just thinking about the fact that you do have a queue for every single village. So of course that novelty when you start up the game and you only have a 1 hour queue, I totally get that. But I imagine it probably gets sold by the time you get to your 10th settled village and you have to go up in the research again to unlock the 24-hour research.
Let me clarify, because that's an important distinction. It's probably not very clear. I've never done any research on the queue in this village. So the queue is account level or
okay.
level. So the queue is not scoped to your village.
Okay.
That's also something decided by and voted on by the community. The
Nice.
queue stays with you as you go. So by the time I have my village, I have a 24-hour queue.
Okay. Well, I just thought that because I assumed you would have the max level thing already. basically, more or less. The level 5 research.
Yeah. No, I'm not a very good player. I'm never really good at this game.
That's okay. I mean, that's interesting for sure. Yeah. I can move on to the next question. You already have been here for so long. I don't want to steal infinite of your time, but it has been a nice talk, no doubt. How do you plan to handle just automation in the game? Because I mean, of course, the more users this gets, the more you'll probably have people that know how to code and how to have some bot doing whatever. I mean, I feel like there are always going to be actions that. I mean, as much as you try for it to not be the case, right? To try to make it be as much of a hassle to cheat on, because like there's no reason to. There will probably always be things for you to potentially cheat on. I can already think of a thing, for example, when a new world starts, you pretty much always just do the same thing, right? You follow the missions, you gather the resources, you do all of that. In TribalWars, I am very aware of many people who just, for example, run a bot to go through all of those missions and instantly collect the resources and instantly queue up the right thing. Because after playing so many worlds, it kind of just became always the same thing. And that's also where that sort of like manager, where you would like just set the order of your queue, comes up. Because that solves that issue. But I mean, I do understand the game is at a completely different development point. But my general point with this is, I mean, there will always be people in the future as the game grows. There will always be people who will try to automate things on it. How do you plan to handle it? Do you think you would probably lean more into automation, or you would try to just punish the people who do it, basically?
Yeah, it's such a it's so hard to answer without understanding how people feel. Like if I say that I'm against automation, which like in general I am. Like I am not someone that's like really engaged in like cheating mechanics in games, because I play them to play them, and I'm already like, I'm not very good. I played a lot of Travian. I wouldn't ever tell you I'm very good at Travian. Um, so like I play just to like experience it and play it. So like it's not something I understand, but I would imagine that if I asked the community how they feel about it, like TribalWars has game allowed scripting, as far as I understand. So like that automation is built into
the game. No, but they are like not meant to be automated. They need user input, basically.
Okay, got it.
They are scripts that, for example, and that's also a thing, by the way, that I think would be very beneficial if there was some sort of mechanic. The most popular script by far in TribalWars is the warehouse balancer script. Basically, what it does is it just sees how many resources each village has, and based on that, it allows you to just redistribute either evenly or targeting resource distribution to villages with like a lower amount of points. And then you just like hold enter or click send or whatever. Like the script does the calculating. You tell it, okay, I want you to prioritize the building of villages that are under 2.5k points, and I want you to ignore the villages that are above 7,000 points. So those villages will only be sending resources to the others and will receive 0 resources. And people just use this. It's not something automated, but it's just something you run every like hour or so, which, by the way, is annoying, and in my opinion should be something that is automated, because I mean, if you're running something every single hour, I don't see how you can justify that just being a thing and you just have to run it every single hour. But basically that's what the scripts do. They are not something automated. They are a lot of the times things that just help you perform some action that you certainly could do on your own, but it's just very annoying to do it on your own, basically.
Got it. Yeah. But we're going to think about that. I will say, like, I do think in general that it's kind of a fool's errand to try to fight that too hard, because like we're entering this strange new world where like for all I know, someone running OpenClaw is going to be playing this game and having AI agents playing this game for them, and I will not be able to distinguish them between a real person. Uh, it's such a hard question, and I don't know. I know that companies have invested a ton into this and not really come out on top, or have not really curbed the problem. Like I said, Jagex that runs old school RuneScape runs like massive budget into stopping botting, and I would wager to say almost half the active player base is bots. So um, I would just say I want to reward the players that play, make it fun for them. Uh, Maybe throw some captions here and there, although I still think probably like most modern AIs are going to solve that captcha anyways. But like maybe if you've been on for a long time, throw that kind of in just to like make sure. Like there's some technology solutions that you can do, and there's some pattern recognition where you know you can probably say like these three people are using the same script because the timings are exact and all these other things. But yeah, it's hard to say. I guess it comes back to design. Like maybe each game has some special kind of configuration that makes the beginning game slightly different than the last and unpredictable. And there's some element of randomness in that, like yeah, I don't know, a horde of cultists attacks your village if you roll an unlucky number, and you have to prepare for that in some way. And if you do, there's some reward. Like you kind of get what I'm saying. I think it always is going to come back to game design, and it's always going to be like I want to say solve the problem when it's here, but it's more like what's the meta around botting even look like, and how do we confront that. I would say that like I want to look at the behavior that causes people to bot. Like you said in TribalWars, like you identified the behavior or the gameplay design that makes people want to automate is that they've played the beginning game 100 times and they know what it feels like, and there's nothing new to experience, and so they don't mind fast forwarding that.
That's an example. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like maybe confronting those behaviors that encourage people to bot in the first place is probably a better place to start than like trying to fight it. Which is like maybe like you said, maybe we start with two villages on some worlds if you have a certain amount of reputation accumulated over your career in the game. Uh, Maybe there, like I said, some kind of special event that happens on a game that like adds this element of randomness that makes it compelling to play your 100th game, and you can feel it might be different because there's this mechanic that makes it different. So it's
I was
always going to
thinking
come.
a thing that also could be relevant, for example, would be like the tribe you are in being like randomly selected, because I could see someone leaning very heavily into like the Romans or whatever, and they just play that every single time, and they become so good at it that they find like the optimal way to do it, and they are just bored following that optimal way every single time, and so they just use a bot for it basically. That's
Yes,
a
yes, yeah.
random a randomness in the type selection would also do something, I guess.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, there's because if you played 100 games as a Roman, and there's randomness involved, then those 100 games become 33 as a Roman, and so like it takes three times longer to get to that point where you feel like you want to bot. Um, and maybe I'd recommend just taking a break at that point and waiting for new content to happen. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you said is very reasonable and makes a lot of sense. Just trying to act on the pain points that would potentially make people cheat, rather than necessarily just either leaning very much into it or very much against it, basically. Um, the randomness, adding a randomness point, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Um, I don't know if there's anything you still want to add regarding that. We can move on to the next one if not.
Well, yeah, I think I don't have much to add to that.
Okay. And these questions now, this set of questions has to do with just, well, the game is still in beta. Not just like a lot of ideas, questions of where uh, what you think the game will look like in the future, or when it comes to whatever mechanics, whatever. So the first question is exactly that. Where do you see the game in like half a year, or in a year, or something of that sort? Just in this not so distant future, but also in a while still.
Yeah. So I would say that 6 month mark is like when I'd really try to start like pushing it as like a not finished game, but like a ready for launch kind of game. Like that 6 month mark. Hopefully, there's been a community that stays and kind of does play testing for us, and we get this like alignment on like we found this right balance of mechanics and configurations that feels really fun to play. Uh, and so yeah, that 6 month mark is like really at that point. I want to find as many of those TribalWars Travian players that felt left behind because they for whatever reason they couldn't keep up because of the time commitment or the money commitment that it takes to be a top player. Grab those types of players and like really like ask them to try the game and tell me what they think and play the game and compete and see how you do and see if it's fun. Um, After that, I think there's a lot of like rough edges around the game, and I think you'd agree. There are edges around the game that kind of are only tolerable if you've played TribalWars or if you've played Travian, and even some of them probably aren't tolerable to you at this point. And you've got to figure them out, and that's a friction point. So like I want to make this game really accessible to these Travian and TribalWars players, so they can jump in and feel at home and kind of it doesn't take them long to grasp the mechanics and the complexities, and they can start like calling this their main game. Like it don't have to be a huge community, but a decent sized community. After that, I'd really like to expand towards new communities, and that involves kind of roughing or sanding down those edges. Uh, Making the game more accessible in a way that still is rewarding for the top players, but allows new players to like kind of get caught up to speed quickly and kind of bring us in. Like I really see this, and I've always seen this from the start. Is like Travian came out in 2004. It inherently has a disadvantage to me in some ways, in that they have 20 some years of technical debt, and they're bogged down by the choices they made in 2004, and I have a fresh start, right? So I can move a little bit faster than they might be able to, and I can make a game that looks great on mobile first, the way that they couldn't, because that wasn't really a platform in 2004, right?
Makes sense.
So I can modernize this game, and hopefully I'd love to bring it to a new audience and see what they think about it, and see how it evolves with their input as well.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like some pretty solid goals. Yeah, I would say, especially by targeting mobile. I mean that seems to be where a lot of the players in the gaming sphere are at now. It's just such a universal thing, basically, especially in markets like Southeast Asia, for example. It feels like those markets are huge for mobile games. You've got games like Free Fire having big tournaments with hundreds of thousands of viewers, and that's like mainly focused in like the Asia Pacific region. It's crazy to me how much how many people just are involved in the mobile gaming sphere. Right?
It is crazy, and I really underestimated it until recently. And even a buddy of mine mentioned like Balatro, which was like I think the game of the year in 2025, or someone gave
I've
it
heard
that.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a mobile game, and I always thought of it as a Steam game because it's of course on Steam. But yeah, it's a mobile game, and it's like wow, like uh, that platform really is a huge target, and yeah, this game should be accessible to those players too.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just very smart. Sounds nice. Next question, a bit more specific. Uh, what are the next biggest updates you are thinking of making?
Yeah, so like the nearest future is we're going to turn on outpost PvP. So your outposts need to be defended, and they're subject to attack. From there, So the outposts and the roads are a somewhat recent update. They've enabled this sort of end game to actually come true. So I would say like some big check marks is there's going to be more troop types for every tribe. Uh, more cavalry, more infantry for some tribes, but everyone's getting more cavalry. There's got to be a decision point about like the nobleman equivalent. Do we need that? What does it look like? There's going to be siege weapons that need to come out, so that's going to be a thing. There is, and then there's like this, yeah, this concept of capturing this flag and taking it home, and that's kind of the big one. So that's going to happen, and then there's going to be a lot of polish. So I would say like it's like one of those things. I feel like the game is about 65% complete as far as a playable game. Not as far as a game that feels good to play yet, but a game that is like genuinely playable, and people that are really hardcore into it probably enjoy it. From there, there's a lot of like sanding down those edges and really making sure the game makes sense to people and that the onboarding is smooth and that the systems are well explained and documented. Like the tools thing, like you were talking about, a page to like manage all your villages, that needs to exist, right? It doesn't need to exist for the game to be like a minimally viable, playable game, but it realistically, like that's a thing I owe the players to be able to see. So there's all these kind of things in the next 6 months coming, but like the last really big thing I would say is this flag, and that's pretty much it. So it's like mostly done, but that last part might be might take the longest, which really is the polishing.
Yeah, makes sense. So the big thing coming is, well, sort of completing the gameplay of the game basically, and then the, where time will be most spent on is, well, just polishing all of that and
Yes.
aligning things.
Yes, 100%. And I do want to quickly address there is generative AI all over the game. I am working with a human artist to replace those with art that makes sense. Like some of these things, there's sort of a meme that came out about the game about you can't really see this guy. Okay, if you can see this gentleman right here, like there's this medieval village, and then there's this guy with a baseball cap. So there's all these kind of like generative AI things that don't quite make sense that we want to fix, and we have a human artist who's doing a great job building things. Like this river, this boat that goes nowhere in the middle of the village doesn't make sense. I hate these things, and I catch them. And I just want to clarify, like that's another kind of big thing is a human artist, better design of the buildings, better design of the backdrop. All these kind of things are coming. So, for the generative AI crowd that loves AI, I'm really sorry, and for the generative AI crowd that's mad at me for using it, I'm sorry I did it, but they were just placeholders, and I'm paying a real human for it. So, to address both those people.
Makes sense. I mean, you do need a rough sketch of things to get it all started. I don't think you can really be blamed for it.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I mean, it is what it is, right? You can't make the game work without a rough sketch of things, and you are not a designer. Or if you were to design everything, the game would take like a year more to come out. So
it'll take me a year to learn how to draw. So
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, 100%. So.
Yeah, for sure. Next question. When do you think you will start attempting to push the game to new people, and how do you plan to market it?
It's such a good question, and there's stuff going on. I just want to put it this way, like believe it or not, people in the gaming industry have kind of taken notice of our little community. So there's stuff in the works for like a real launch and distribution of this game, which I don't want to talk about too much because of course nothing's finalized. But yeah, I'd probably do like just I've continued to do Reddit outreach. There's probably like strategy gamers. I have like most of my community has come from a couple posts I've made on r/TribalWars and r/Travian. From there, Like people came from ChatGPT having conversations with ChatGPT and they asked, "Are there any TribalWars alternatives?" And ChatGPT told them about this game, which blows my mind. I imagine, Duck, that you have uh, a decent enough audience that a few people will be inspired to check this out and ask for updates. But I've had close to 300 people express interest and sign up and get on the mailing list. So I kind of expect that to be a more organic thing over time. But yeah, I think another one where it's like, man, my focus is so far away from that and so like honed in on like I care way more about the fact that like you only learned about what roads are now and it wasn't very clear to you, and how do I make that more clear? Like that's a way bigger concern to me than how do I market this in 6 months. But I of course need to think about that, right? Like I don't want to be naive to that fact. But ideally that gets just taken care of. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's just not your priority at this moment.
Correct. And it's also not my expertise. Like
Of
I'm a
course.
software developer and I'm a Travian player, and those two things aligned that allowed me to make this game, but I'm not a marketer and I don't know how to market video games, so that's gonna be a whole new foray for me.
Yeah, that
But
makes sense.
this is part of that outreach, right? So we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a part of it for sure. Um, my next question is, this one is also super specific. At this stage, what do you think is the best developed thing or just concept in the game?
There's a couple things I'm like really proud of. I am proud of the queue just because of how it was designed and how the community came together with it. I think the map like generally is kind of visually appealing. There's some like rough edges. Like this tile here is so terrible. The
Yeah,
green
yeah.
is disgusting, but I love like this mountain tile. I think it's beautiful. So like I'm in general, I'm pretty proud of this map. I think it's like a fairly beautiful screen to look at. But the feature that I would say I'm most proud of is definitely the campaign planner. I just think that idea of like you can schedule eight uh eight attacks in a single train and they launch for you and you don't have to like close tabs really quickly and hope you didn't encounter server lag. Like that feels to me almost like a real breakthrough in this genre of like maybe it's not like maybe someone's done that before, but that feels like really like a cool feature. There's like no pressure and there's no failure that's on you, the player, for like missing your attack or being a second late or whatever. Like it really smooths out a lot of the friction that happens. And there's something really cool about these games in that they're very international. And so, like, I, an American, am talking to you, who's in Europe. I won't say where.
People
But,
know it's fine. But yeah.
okay, all right. So yeah, uh, and I get to talk to people from I get to meet these people from all over, and without that friction and that anger about like missing your attack, like it becomes a more social experience. I hope over time. Uh, and that's like a really cool thing because like I never get to talk to people from Latvia, for example, or from Ireland, and now I talk to them every day. And so there's something happening there where like we can remove the kind of social pressure that comes with being in an alliance in this game, and just really focus on the cool things that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that, yeah. To be honest, me looking at the map, it feels like I'm looking at a 144p video, not gonna lie. It feels like pixelated.
I get that a little bit for sure. Yeah, I can see that. So it's good feedback.
It's like
Let's zoom in.
the grass grounds look like there's like a lot of pixels.
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I want more pixels.
All
Okay.
right, we'll work on that. We'll get a high res image in it. Like the actual tile looks much better than the one you see when it's all zoomed out. But
That's fair. That is fair. Okay. Well, the next question I have, it's the only sort of negative question I have, but it's like, what do you think could make your plan fail, and how likely do you think that is regarding like well, bringing this game up, right, and making it become a thing.
Yeah, taking this to market. Man, there's so many failure scenarios, and they're generally probably the most likely scenarios, like just to be realistic. So there's a couple things. Like first, there's this hypothesis that the whole game is based off of, which is that there's a large market or a large enough market of players that like got left behind by Travian and TribalWars and all these other games, and they want to play and they want to compete, but like their needs aren't met by those games. That could be wrong. That could be like there's no data besides the signups and sort of the activity that I have and the excitement people have shown me for this game. But there's no like that's a hypothesis still, and this is being tested and validated every day. So there could just not be a market for this game. That's an entirely plausible scenario. There could be another emerging game, like people are vibe coding. There could be someone that can vibe code something comparable that is just like has better gameplay. That's a scenario. There is the scenario that like I do a poor job of listening to users, and I do a poor job of executing on their feedback, and I create something they didn't want. So that's the scenario where there is a market for this. This is the current best option for the market, and I fail to execute and listen to what they want. Any one of those could happen, and it's one of those things. Like I just have to know. Like, can I do this? Is there a market for this? Like I've been thinking about this for a long time. Because I want to play this game, right? Like I want to play Travian the way I remember it, and it not be a pay-to-win nightmare for me. So I have to know.
Mike is once again okay. Now it's fixed.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, yeah, I'm just saying I have to know if it works. So I plan on like following through it to the best of my ability, but I could fail to execute. The market could fail to show up, or there could be no market for this game. Any one of those are perfectly likely. But I think that there is another world where we get 1,000 players and they play the game and they have a good time, and that's kind of the community, and that feels like a success to me as well. If it's not like a full commercial project, I'm happy to like play and get to know 1,000 people that like this game. Like that would be cool.
Sense. I mean, even if the community is small, as long as it grows and you've got a lot of people collaborating, it still feels like a success. No doubt.
Yes. Yeah.
That is a cool way to view it. I have a random question regarding a mechanic that exists here and that doesn't exist in TribalWars, right? And I was thinking about it, and I just have like questions on my mind regarding it, which is just the crop mechanic, right? You did talk about it a little bit. You need crop to keep up your troops, basically, to sustain them. But I mean, just what happens if you don't have enough crop to keep your soldiers? Do they die? If the soldiers that you have are like from tribe mates, if you don't have enough crop to sustain them, do they just die, or do they go back to the guy who originally sent you, or does the fact that a guy like sends you troops, does that mean he also like constantly sort of like sends you his crop as well to your village or something? Like how does that mechanic work in general, and how is like crop affected by supporting? Like is crop also sent to people? I don't know.
Yeah. No. So okay. I want to talk about like a yes. So first of all, to answer your question, every 15 seconds that you have zero crop, a troop dies. There's a weight to it, so your own troops die first. But yes, if your alliance members are sitting have sent troops to you, and they are starving, and your troops are all dead, their troops also begin to starve every 15 seconds. And it's randomly distributed. So if there's four alliance members that have sent you troops, yeah, every 15 seconds, one of them will die. It could be any one of those four, but on average, every minute, one troop from those four will die.
Really puts
on
a lot
average.
of weight on tribe cooperation. Very, very interesting.
Correct. Yes. So your next question was about like, do you send crop? I would say that that is good strategy, right? Like, so my village right now, actually, I've been leveling up the fields because it just got kind of annoying to deal with the negative crop. Because I was sending crop, I was feeding myself, from every village very often. But yeah, there's nothing that's you get a notification. I probably even have one if I look here. Let's see. Yeah, so I got a starvation imminent. I have 15-7, so it starts at 1 hour. So you get a notification that your troops are going to starve, so you can send them new crop. You
To
can
be honest,
recall
1 hour
them.
feels a little bit small, but okay.
That's fair. That's fair. I think you're not wrong. Because the merchants could take longer than 1 hour to get there, and in fact, that's probably pretty likely.
Or you
Unless you're
could
connected.
just not be online at that moment and not see it.
Yes. Yes. Now, with push notifications and things like that, like one of the benefits of being a mobile app is ideally you get a little pop up on your screen, like the same way you get a text message that says, "Hey, your troops are
Makes
starting."
sense, but it could still be like overnight, for example. There's
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it needs to be more explicit. But yes, yeah. No, I'm not arguing that. I think you're 100% right. But yeah, I think that the meta would become when you send reinforcements, you also send sufficient crop to do that. Now there needs to be some automation around that.
Mike is once again a little bit fucked.
It just seems like if you're just talking, then it works, right? Is that happening again?
Now it's like if you were under the water or something strange like that. I don't know.
Okay, better. I'm gonna.
It's worse. Oh no. Well, now I just don't hear you at all, but maybe you're like testing. I'll just. Okay. I heard something. Yeah, I don't hear anything again. Oh no. We have a mic issue. Yeah, I'll just pause the recording until the.
Okay. So I was just kind of saying, I think with starvation, there should be some kind of automation around that supported by the game. So one of like the benefits of having um a outpost is you get a post office building. I think that the post office building you would be able to configure trade routes, so like you can send you can set it up to automatically dispatch 10,000 crop to village X comma Y every X hours, right?
Makes
So
sense. Yeah.
yeah, there will come with it automation that supports it so that it's not like a constant login kind of thing. But
Okay.
yeah, I think it adds a certain strategic depth,
Yeah, for
probably.
sure. For sure. I definitely like the idea, and the idea seems really cool. I mean, having something that like also just allows you to, for example, I don't know, I want to build up this village. I'll just make my main village send. Oh, it would be cool if it could be like a percentage. Like imagine your main village sends like 10% of its resources every like 1 hour or something to one of your small villages, so you can like build it up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty cool. Yeah, even not necessarily only on an ally level, but also like on a player level. That seems pretty useful.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, yeah, crops, pretty interesting and very very interesting mechanic. We're almost at the end here, by the way, and
Okay.
I have basically two last questions, and these both have to do with game competitivity and how you sort of envision it.
Mhm.
First of all, I mean, this is the mandatory question, right? This is what I do in my channel. Do you think there will ever come a time where you have some sort of like speed equivalent in your game? So in the sense that you have like a game mode that you play for like 2 hours to 4 hours, maybe sometimes even less, or sometimes even a little bit more. and then it's over, and you don't have to worry about it. I mean, of course, this would probably require a different win condition, I guess, maybe, or maybe it would require just adapting the speed with which things happen. I suppose, but do you envision this happening in any way? I mean, there would definitely be the need for other adaptations. For example, it would raise the question of whether it even makes sense to have specializations or on like different tribes if you were to have a speed, because speeds will inherently have less players, and you wouldn't be able to coordinate so much as a tribe and have like a Roman on your tribe and then a Nordic in your tribe, and like there wouldn't be that coordination, or not for the most part. So yeah, I don't know. Do you ever envision a future where something like this exists? Basically, is the question.
Yes. The game has to succeed, meaning like the main game can continue without the speed players. But yeah, I think that's a lot of fun. I think I even sort of envision like a battle royale mode one day. If I'm like imagining where like you can lobby into a smaller map with four other people and you're considered like an alliance, and it's like a 4v4, or sorry, yeah, 4v4 of like, so 16 players, and it's kind of just a last person standing. I sort of envision that too. I think that sounds like a lot of fun, although it sort of turns into like League of Legends or something at that point.
Yeah,
But
exactly. I mean, which
yeah,
I don't mind at all. Seems interesting.
right. Yeah, so there's something there, and but yes, like the short answer is 100%. I envision that.
To be fair, I mean, that the fact that there would be like 4 different tribes makes it feel a little bit messy to me, because what if 3 tribes sort of just ally against the one tribe that is winning, and then suddenly that one tribe just has no chance whatsoever of competing against all the others, because, well, that one tribe was like very ahead, but then suddenly all the other 3 tribes ally against that one, and then all the other tribes like go up, and they all have like the same amount of points, but then like 2 of them are like more friendly with one another than the other, and then there's like an alliance that ends the game for one of the 3 tribes. Like, I feel like those things would have to be like a tribe versus tribe thing, and not a tribe versus tribe versus tribe. Like free for all feels a bit too messy. Tribe against tribe, I think, makes more sense. But maybe that's just me, right? Maybe there's a way to balance it. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I need to put thought into it. Like, I think like the thought of like 50 versus 50 or something is like so daunting. But maybe that's like I don't know. I haven't put enough thought into it beyond like the ideation. So like,
Yeah.
I can't give you a good answer. Besides, yes, I think that would be a lot of fun, and I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. And well, the last question I have here is: do you envision the game as being something with a potential for esports, or being something worthy of reaching that level at some point? Who knows, right? I mean, of course, we're talking about
Yeah,
super hypotheticals here.
yeah. That goes back into the battle royale mode, which I do think like is a eligible for esports, although it lead like kind of blends genres a little bit. Of course, the 90-day server I don't think makes for very compelling esports. But yeah, maybe an hour long or 30-minute long game, like at 50,000 speed. Like, and I'm just throwing out crazy numbers. Like, don't hold me to any of this. But yeah, at that point, I do think there is like, imagine like that moment on Twitch or whatever. You open that report and like you made a big risk. You open up that report and you have like that great awesome report. Your fakes all work. Like that feels like a great esports moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, I think that there is potential. It's like it's like
The back time clutch, like you have like
right.
a 30-second attack hitting your village, and you back time it with like a unit that takes 10 seconds to get to the enemy village, and it's like super fast reaction, super like risky
Yeah,
to do, but it feels so fun and clutch to see.
yes, yeah. So yeah, I mean, like there is legitimate like esports moments built into these games, but they just take so long to get to, and they're so few and far between that you're kind of just playing for them. that a sped up game does have that potential, but it's like one of those things where I'm like, I want to stay grounded to where I am today, right? With like
Of course, yeah.
80 or so active players, and their needs obviously come first. But like, yeah, if I let myself kind of like dream and envision what could happen, 100%, I see that happening in my dreams.
And for
I'll
sure,
clarify.
I think this would probably be more appealing to a different target audience than the one you have, right? I mean, we before
Mhm.
me turning on the recorder, we were talking about how I'm like pretty young for someone who is around these games. I
Mhm.
feel like that type of thing would be more appealing to a more younger audience who is like faster clicking everything and uh, just like has the patience to have played that a lot of times to know what they should do repeatedly, more or less. Of course, there could be still some randomness. Yeah, but
Right.
even like adapting to the randomness, like just reacting fast and all of that, that probably would be something very interesting for like older players to just sit down and relax watching uh younger, more energetic people play that. I could be seeing that completely wrongly, by the way.
No,
But
no, I would get stomps like within seconds. So no, I'm with you. Like, yeah, I wouldn't be the target audience, but I agree. It would be fun to watch someone do that for sure.
yeah, that
The
probably
clutch
would be
track,
something that comes after only reaching a new audience. Basically, I
right?
would. Yeah, that makes
Yes.
sense. And well, this is the end for me. And I mean, the recorder tells me we've been here for 3 hours, which is absolutely insane. Um,
Insane.
do you have anything you would like uh to live this video with, this insanely long conversation with? Um,
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about anything and everything. I don't know. Is there anything on your mind still? Anything you would like to mention, or just, well, shouting out your
No,
game once again? I guess.
yeah, I just like do that if you don't mind. I mean, I think we covered so much. I hope that people get a sense of how I approach the development of this game. And if you want to see it for yourself, please join the Discord. I'm sure there'll be a link or something, or I'll comment. I'll have to make a Google account,
Yeah, it will
which I'll
be
do
in the
very soon.
description.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, find it there, join the Discord, offer your feedback, ask your questions, inspire the conversation, and people will react and come up with cool ideas. If you are so inclined, feel free to join the alpha. We're kind of running out of space. I think there's like 17 slots open. If there's enough demand, I may expand that. Um, I'd have to look at that, but I just want people to know about this game and know that there's other options out there, and yeah, it helps me know that there's people behind this type of idea, and if you are one of them, like let your voice be heard.
Yeah, I mean, awesome. Sounds great. I really do hope um some people will at least have heard until now. I mean, this is something super long to hear, but since it's more of a podcast style thing, we'll hope someone heard this until now. I mean, if someone has heard this until now, let's do the YouTube thing. What should people comment if someone has heard this until now? What do you think?
If you made it this far, I guess CQO for Conquer Quest Online. Unless you're the YouTuber, you know the algorithm better than me. But how about CQO or yeah, how about that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that if someone actually kept track of everything we're saying until here, they will probably type more than just that. But I suppose that does something.
Okay, I see. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're supposed to say something like, okay, tell me one feature that you're dying to see in this type of game that no one else has done. How about that?
that,
That's a
that
better
sounds
YouTube
good. That
answer.
sounds great. Yeah, yeah,
There we
yeah.
go. See, I'm such a bad YouTuber. That's
I
why I
like it.
am.
I mean, I'm not the best either. I mean, I just I can't even edit videos properly, right? I just turn on OBS and play games or something. Anyway, it has been a pleasure, man.
Same.
We'll we'll turn off the recording, and well, hopefully people enjoyed it and people give the game a try.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to chat
Well, thank you for
and
coming,
enjoy chatting with you.
and of course, thank you for your attempts into making this genre of game into something greater than what it currently is. Yeah.
Totally.